Good evening. A special board meeting of April 18, 2023 is called into order. You want to do the invocation for me? Invocation and pledge will be done by Mr. Voisin.
Please stand. Lord, be with us during this meeting. In dealing with the agenda at hand, may we treat each other's opinions with respect. May we learn how to reject ideas without rejecting people and share visions, although we may not share the same means. May this meeting be for each of us an opportunity to be servants to the people we represent. We humbly ask this in your name. Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Michael Lagarde.
Here.
Mr. Gregory Harding.
Here.
Mr. Matthew Ford.
Here.
Mrs. Debbie Benoit. Mr. Don Crowdis.
Here.
Mr. Clyde Hamner.
Here.
Mr. Roger Dale Dehart. Dr. Maybelle Trahan.
Here.
And Mr. Dane Voisin.
Here.
Madam President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Remind the board members, please make sure that your microphones are on when you're speaking. Otherwise, our citizens and constituents at home cannot hear you when you're speaking. Item number 5, superintendent's agenda.
Okay, item A1 is consideration of approval on property insurance renewal for the 23-24 fiscal year. The recommendation is that the board approve and accept the renewal offer for property insurance through USI Insurance Services Incorporated, providing $35 million limits per occurrence with $10 million sublimits for named storms, subject to $100,000 deductible per occurrence for all perils except for a 5% deductible subject to $500,000 minimum per occurrence for named storms, effective April 27, 2023, with an annual premium of $2,090,538.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hamner, second by Mr. Ford. Any public comment? Any other board members?
Well, let me just
Oh, excuse
start
me.
out by saying Curtis and Ed Daig from USI are both here. They're going to explain the offer, but I just wanted to say from the outset that it paid us as a board to wait those 18 days and not and take that chance to keep negotiating with the carriers. So with that said, I'm going to let Curtis and Ed take over.
Mr. Contrados.
Thank you. What we did save in the final amount was a little over $17,000. We were hoping for more, but monetarily, that's all we could end up saving. Now, Mr. Daigle could go into some more specifics on other things we agreed to and got agreements on in the contract. It was important to get Berkshire as our lead insurer, to have a contract that was a U.S. contract and not start off with Lloyd's with a contract out of London. But Mr. Digg can go ahead and explain some of the nuances that we got added in it that's going to benefit us also.
Thanks, Curtis. Ed Daigle with USI Insurance Services. The reference Curtis made was a couple things that were not 100% ironed out last month, but they are now. One of those was making sure we waived vacancy clause. As you probably know, in these insurance contracts, if a building is vacant over a certain period of time, you have a loss, there's no coverage. So we had to make sure we know you're going to have several vacant locations for some time. So we wanted to make sure we took care of that. The other thing is we know that some of these buildings are going to have some major repairs, and we felt like it was important to make sure that the carriers are insuring these damaged facilities during the course of construction. And that was not easy, frankly, but had we not been able to do that, I think in meeting with Curtis and your building supervisor and architects discussions, you would have been pushing off that builder's risk cost to contractors to not only insure the cost of the project they're bidding on, but also the existing facility, and that would have been difficult for those contractors to obtain that coverage. So those were a couple of things that we felt were really important. In addition, we have secured what you would call a margin clause. It's a 110% margin clause. And what that means is if you have a building insured right now on your schedule for $100,000 and you have a loss that exceeds that $100,000, the carrier's reimbursement to you would be 110% of $100,000. So you get up to $110,000 instead of $100,000. Sounds a little small, but it's something that we often try to get in there because the cost of construction, as you all are well aware, is skyrocketing fast, and it gets away from you. We started out looking for 120% and settled in at 110 because carriers just wouldn't agree to more than that. So those were some of the things that, I know it's outside the pricing piece of this, but we viewed them as very important.
I apologize, Mr. Ford, for looking past you earlier. Mr. Ford.
Glad he was able to come up and speak. So, I knew that the previous premium was with Lloyd's of London. I don't remember the exact price, but I'm just curious to know, just off the top of your head, I want to say it was like 1.3 million, 1.4, something like that.
Last year's price?
The previous.
Yes, sir, it's like $1,565,000, 1,565,504.
A little bit for the previous year. So, I know we always take a risk. Insurance companies supposed to take a risk off, so it's like they're in that business. But, I just wanted to clarify for those that maybe don't know, you know, the previous premium was about $500,000 less. And we went a pretty significant amount of time without a named storm or without claims, so we, you know, they pretty much, Lloyd's of London made a lot of money off of the school district. After all, they only paid us $10 million with Hurricane Ida. So I'm just looking at, you know, I want to point that out, that we don't want another named storm, but, you know, in the event we would get one in the next 2 or 3 years, we would end up saving a little money, but after that 4th year, you're not really saving anything with that $10 million limit for named storms. So I don't know if that was something that was able to be negotiated to get a higher amount, or would it increase the premium so much that it wouldn't be worth looking into? So in other words, at 10 million, if we went to a higher amount, you know, where's the balance for that? That's what I want.
That's a great question. We pursued some higher limits for named storms specifically, to your point. And so we have 10 million now. We see what that's costing us. To buy 1 million more, we had an option to do that at $350,000 for 1 million more, which is, I think a bit much.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to know, because it you know, in the overall scheme of things, that 10 million is really just a drop in the hat for what we're going to end up spending for all the reconstruction. Fortunately, we do have FEMA that's, you know, backing up a percentage of it. But, you know, to the general public, $10 million is a lot of money, but they don't realize that that 10 million was taken up in the first 2 buildings, first 2 schoolhouses that we looked at. So I just want to make sure we're being, you know, as transparent as possible with our stakeholders. The other thing is, you mentioned vacant, the vacancy clause. Who defines what vacant is? And that's kind of it's not to be rhetorical. I just really want to know, you know, what determines a building to be vacant? Is it that we don't have school going on there, we don't have an office there, or we don't have, you know, we have some buildings that we don't have humans in, but we have equipment and storage in. Are those considered vacant, or is that not considered vacant?
So there's 2 things, and to answer your first question, the carrier, the terms, conditions define it. Curtis referenced having Berkshire on it. We have a U.S. policy, so that's good. But Generally, it's number of days. It's usually 60 days. It could be 90 days. Not sure what this one will be, but we just wanted that off the table. We didn't want to have the debate after a loss that, hey, we have some people in there. Hey, our maintenance goes in there once a week. No, it's vacant because nobody's really operating, and then you're getting this whole mess. But carriers define it. They define it lots of ways. We thought getting it off the table was the best way to go.
So the policy that we're adopting doesn't have that clause, and that's something that we don't have to worry, that's one less thing we have to worry about. Okay.
Because, I mean, you know, look, you can go out at South Terrebonne. You know, we all know what's out there right now, but the main building could be considered vacant. Vandals get in there, whatever, you know,
Yeah.
don't wanna
Well,
go down.
that's what I needed to do. I appreciate it. Thanks for the answer.
And to your point, you know, the last significant loss in my memory was Gustav in '08. That was about $7 or $8 million. So 10 million looked pretty good. I mean, God help us if we have another item, but I mean, you know, we don't want that certainly. But yeah, that was the last really significant loss. So,
Any more board members have questions for these gentlemen? No? Thank you, sir.
yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna go back to public. Did anybody wanna come up? Did I miss you a while ago? No? Okay. Any objections? None heard, so ordered. Being that the only item on our agenda, do I have a motion for adjournment? Mr. Ford?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hamner. Any public comments? Any other board members? Any objections? None heard, so ordered. We're gonna change the order of committees up a little bit. We're gonna go with finance first, and then followed by executive. Then we will have go back to the regular order with buildings. Mr. Hamner,
Thank you, Dr. Trahan.
we need to wait until Ms. Beck is
Nope.
ready.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Brunet. Have a good evening. Do what? I did. Oh, you want to, okay. We do the pledge? Oh, okay. All right, well, please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll lead them. Lord, be with us during this meeting and dealing with the agenda at hand. May we treat each other's opinions with respect. May we learn how to reject ideas without rejecting people and share visions, although we may not share the same means. May this meeting be for each of us an opportunity to be servants of the people we represent. We humbly ask this through your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Finance, Insurance, and Section 16 Lands Committee will come to order. Let the record show that President is Mr. Mike Lagarde, committee member, and Vice Chair of the committee, and myself, Chairman. Mr. Dehart is absent tonight. Other members present are Greg Harding, Mr. Crowdis, Don Crowdis, Dane Voisin, Dr. Maybelle Trahan, Matt Ford, and Superintendent Angeron and staff. First item on the agenda is a consideration of the approval to adopt a resolution for the 2023 millages. The committee recommends that the board approve and adopt the attached resolution adopting the millage rates for the regular school tax, that's the constitutional tax, and the special school tax, that's the maintenance tax of the entire school system, all effective for 2023. Moved by Mr. Lagarde and seconded by myself. You want to speak to the resolution? The resolution's attached.
Right, it's just a formality that has to be done every year in order for us to allow the parish of Terrebonne to collect and levy it on our behalf.
Mr. Crowdis, you have a question?
I just want to clarify, so we're not instituting new taxes, we're just,
That's correct. Every year, we have to pass a resolution to approve
The
current
authorization
millage.
for them to collect it, to levy it and collect it and distribute it on our behalf. Yes, no problem.
Mr. Ford?
I don't want to give you a hard question, but every year this comes up, and I've asked, do you have a scenario where we would not adopt this? In other words, just to keep the public informed, we authorize it each year because we're trying to levy as much as we can because we have a school system to run. But is there a situation where maybe us or another school district wouldn't accept the full amount? Is there a benefit to that?
Absolutely not one that I'm aware of.
Okay.
It's money coming in, it's resources to help run as you speak of. I can't imagine a situation where you would not want that resource.
So basically, we went to the taxpayers, we got them to approve this, they
Correct.
approved it. Now
Correct.
we're collecting it as we asked for,
Correct.
and we're utilizing it accordingly. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Any objections to the motion? Hearing no objections, the motion passes. Item 3, consideration of approval of fiscal agent agreement extension. The committee recommends the board approve and accept an extension of the fiscal agent agreement with Regions Bank for 1-year period beginning July 1st, 2023 and terminating June 30th, 2024, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. Moved by Mr. Lagarde, seconded by myself. Any members of the public wish to address this motion? Mr. Lagarde? This is really a routine thing. Any questions? Anybody else have any comments? All right. Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes. Finally, matter bearing upon monthly budget to actual comparison report and the sales tax collection report.
The budget comparison reports are in your packet. I'll be happy to address any questions you may have on that. As far as the sales tax collections go, we're reporting on the month of February 23. So in comparison to February of 2022, we are down. It's a decrease of 9.31%.
Any questions for Ms. Klingman? Hearing none, move to adjourn. Seconded by Mr. Lagarde. Any objections to adjourning? Hearing none, motion passes.
We're gonna do exec next. We're gonna do exec next. Okay, wait.
Executive committee is called to order. Present is myself, chair, Mr. Lagarde, member, and Mr. Voisin is vice chair. The examination of invoices for the current month, including supplemental payroll and travel expenses. Any committee concerns? Mr. Voisin? Mr. Lagarde? Any other board members? Do I have a motion to approve the invoices?
Yes, motion.
Motion by Mr. Voisin, second by Mr. Lagarde. Any public comment? Mr. Voisin, Ms. Lagarde, any other board members? Any objections? None heard, so ordered. Motion to adjourn by Mr. Voisin, second by Mr. Lagarde.
Friday, provided that the necessary insurance, nonprofit status, and all other school board policy requirements are met, and further approval is obtained from the school's principal. So move, Mr. Harding.
Second.
Second, Dr. Traha. Any public comments? Mr. Thomas Johnson, do you wish to address? No? You're not here? Okay, all right.
He came to my office yesterday and I gave him a copy to him. He said he would be here. I'm not sure what happened.
Okay. Oh, is that what it is? Okay, that'll work. Okay, any other public comments? Mr. Harding, any comments?
I think, I could be wrong, I know they got, district tomorrow, so I know they probably practice a little longer than track, so, that's probably the reason why he probably didn't make it. I understand the point to give it also.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Dr. Tron?
No, sir.
Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Number 4, consideration of approval of bids received on meats and frozen items. The committee recommends that the board accept and approve the lowest bids received meeting all specifications on meats and frozen items for the 23-24 school session from Diamond Food Distributors, Inc., Jefferson, Louisiana, in the amount of $440,458.99, and Pond Food Corporation, Ponchatoula, Louisiana, in the amount of $461,452.38. Funds to be derived from the Child Nutrition Program Fund. So move, Mr. Harding. Second, Dr. Traha. Any public comments? Mr. Harding?
No, sir.
Dr. Traha?
No, sir.
Any other board members? Any objections? Does Ms. Monica, would you like to add anything? I'm sorry. No? Okay. Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. You're just gonna stay up here for a while, huh? Consideration, number 5, consideration of approval of bids received on canned dry goods for the 23-24 school session. The committee recommends that the board accept and approve the lowest bids received meeting all specifications on canned and dry goods for the 23-24 school session from Diamond Food Distributors, Inc., Jefferson, Louisiana, in the amount of $386,034.85. Pond Food Corporation, Ponchatoula, Louisiana, in the amount of $408,431.37. Carl's Burger Foods, Inc., Monticello, Minnesota, in the amount of $2,190. Funds to be derived from the Child Nutrition Program Fund. So move Mr. Harding, second Dr. Traha. Any public comments? Ms. Monica, anything?
No.
We spend a lot of money on food, huh?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Mr. Harding? Dr. Traha?
No, sir.
Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Number 6, consideration of approval of bids received on milk products for the 23-24 school session. The committee recommends that the board accept and approve the lowest bid received, meeting all specifications on milk products for the 23-24 school session from LaFleur Dairy Products, Inc., Houma, Louisiana. Funds to be derived from the Child Nutrition Program funds. So move Mr. Harding, second Dr. Traha. Any public comments? Mr. Harding? Dr. Traha? Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Number 7, consideration of approval of bids received on fruit juice for 23-24 school session. The committee recommends that the board accept and approve the lowest bid received, meeting all specifications on fruit juice for the 23-24 school session from Lacasange LLC, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, in the amount of $160,000. Funds to be derived from the Child Nutrition Program Fund. So move Dr. Traha, second Mr. Harding. Any public comments? Dr. Traha?
No.
Mr. Harding? Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Number 8, consideration of approval of bids received on fresh fruits and vegetables for the 23-24 school session. The committee recommends that the board accept and approve the lowest bid received, meeting all specifications on fresh fruits and vegetables for the 23-24 school session from Capital City Produce, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, in the amount of $120,000. Funds to be derived from the Child Nutrition Program Fund. So move Mr. Harding. Second, Dr. Traha. Any public comments? Mr. Harding? Dr. Traha? Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Number 9, consideration of approval of bids received on supplies and disposables from the 23-24 school session. The committee recommends that the board accept and approve the lowest bids received, meeting all specifications on supplies and disposables for the 23-24 school session from Cintas Corporation, Thibodaux, Louisiana, in the amount of $21,084. Daxwell LLC, Houston, Texas, in the amount of $22,973.50. Economical Paper and Janitorial Supplies, New Orleans, Louisiana, in the amount of $304,128.73. Interboro Packing Corporation, Montgomery, New York, in the amount of $3,430. Lafayette Restaurant Supply, Inc., Lafayette, Louisiana, in the amount of $31,207.75. Pond Food Corporation, Monticello, Louisiana, in the amount of $16,535.50. Funds to be derived from the Child Nutrition Program Fund. So move Mr. Harding, second Dr. Traha. Any public comments? Mr. Harding, Dr. Traha? Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes.
Oh, okay, all right.
We good?
Yeah, we good.
All right. Number 10, consideration of approval for option to extend the current contract for linen services for the 23-24 school session. The committee recommends that the board accept and approve the option to extend the current contract to provide linen services for the 23-24 school session from Cintas Corporation, Thibodaux, Louisiana, in the amount of $17,500. Funds to be derived from the Child Nutrition Program Fund. So move Mr. Harding, second Dr. Traha. Any public comments? Mr. Harding?
No.
Dr. Traha? Any other board members? Yes, Mr. Ford.
Can you define what linen services is? What actually do we pay for?
They bring grill towels to the cafeterias. that are clean. We use them in the week. They put them in a bag, they pick up the grill towels, they wash them, and then they repeat.
$17,500 to pick up, wash,
And provide clean towels, yes.
Throughout the year, the whole
Yes.
school year? Yeah.
Yes, it's for a whole school year.
You want that job?
I mean, I could sell y'all some for half that price and make a little money. That just seems a bit excessive, but okay. That's what I wanted to know. I thought that was a bit high, but that's fine.
Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Number 11, consideration of approval for option to extend the current contract for concentrated detergents and related items. The committee recommends that the board accept and approve the option to extend the current contract to provide concentrated detergents and related items for the 23-24 school session from Sanitech Systems, Lakeland, Florida, in the amount of $54,372.50. Funds to be derived from the Child Nutrition Program Fund. So move, Mr. Harding. Second, Dr. Trahan. Any public comments? Mr. Harding? Dr. Trahan?
Yes, sir.
Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Number 12, I think you're done. Thank you, Ms. Monica. Appreciate it. Number 12, consideration of approval of bid received for the building repair project at Legion Park Elementary, East Homa Elementary, Dularge Elementary, Cocho Bayou Blue Elementary, and Village East Elementary Schools. The committee recommends that the board approve and accept the lowest bid received, meeting all specifications for the building repair project in response to Hurricane Ida at Legion Park Elementary, East Homa Elementary, Dularge Elementary, Cocho Bayou Blue Elementary, and Village East Elementary Schools from Cotton Commercial USA, Inc., 5443 Katy Hockley Cutoff Road, Katy, Texas, 77493, in the amount of $1,874,741.50, and establish a total project budget in the amount of $2,068,014.50, funds to be derived from FEMA reimbursement funds, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. So move, Dr. Trahan. Second, Mr. Harding. Public comments. Any, Dr. Trahan? Mr. Harding? Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Number 13, consideration of approval of bid received for the spectator gym repair project at ST, South Terrebonne High School. The committee recommends that the board approve and accept the lowest bid received, meeting all specifications, for the spectator gym repair project in response to Hurricane Ida at South Terrebonne High School from Thompson Construction Company, LLC, P.O. Box 187, Thibodaux, Louisiana, 70302, in the amount of $2,847,500, except alternative number 1 in the amount of $27,000, and establish a total project budget in the amount of $3,161,318.13. Funds to be derived from FEMA reimbursement funds, $2,820,886.32, and local funds, $340,431.81, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. So move, Mr. Harding. Second, Dr. Trahan. Any public comments? Mr. Harding?
Yeah, one question. The spectator gym, is that the main gym or that's the?
That's what we used to call the new gym.
Okay, the new gym.
The new gym, correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, 'cause I know they got the old and, okay.
The new, yeah, we always call it the old and the new, but,
It's a competition gym, but we may need another way to term that. It's
Okay.
where the games are actually.
Okay, all right.
okay, good question. Dr. Trahan?
I just want to let the public know that alternative 1 is so that we have public announcement, PA capabilities to the gym. When the kids are there during the day, that if the emergency arises, they're able to automatically be able to instantly contact the front office. Because we couldn't have activities going on in the gym and not have that communication set up. So that's what the alternative 1 is.
Very good. Thank you for that explanation. Any other board members? Mr. Hamner?
By approving this, is the gym, what, is it gonna be rebuilt exactly the way it was before, or are there any design changes?
That's Mr. Mr.
or Merlin, or both, for that matter. Merlin's the architect, Scott is our project manager, so I think we can give an answer to that.
Merlin Lee, architect with the Merlin Group. And it's basically going back the way it was. We made a change on the upper roof from a modified bitumen to a standing seam metal. That's basically the only change on the exterior. Interior, everything is going back. We're going back, it had a hardwood floor in there. We're going back with a hardwood floor and things of that sort. So, you know, you're not going to, the brick, I think we were able to find the exact brick to match the exterior where the corner had gotten blown in. So everything's going to pretty much look like it was before, except all the metal roof is being changed, even the lower roofs too. So, but the only major thing is that the upper roof on the gymnasium itself is changed from modified bitumen to standing seam metal roof. And we actually, that was with this low bid that we accepted, it was a $10,000 reduction in cost. If we'd have gone back with the modified bitumen, it'd been $10,000 more. That's it.
Mr. Ford?
So I don't have as much of a question, but mine was along the lines of Mr. Hamner. I've had a lot of people from the South Terrebonne region or from that area ask if we're gonna, when we rebuild, if it's gonna be as close to what was previously there as possible, or is it gonna be a whole new redesign? And I guess my question was, because this gym is one of the first aspects of that entire campus that we're gonna touch, my question was the same thing as Mr. Hamner, which is it gonna be the same, similar to what we did with Southdown? Remember, we retained that same gymnasium, we just refurbished it a little bit, it's just as nice as it was before. So I guess my question, follow-up is that kind of the direction we're looking at for the schoolhouse as well, if we're trying to retain that same look and that same feel in that gym, because that's what the community wants. And I don't want to speak for everybody, but the overwhelming majority of people that I've heard from is they want to keep that same feel and that same sort of vibe, if you will, that South Terrebonne has always had.
Right. Well, no, we're anticipating the same on the main building, which will include the original gym or the old gym and the auditorium and things of that sort. We can't, because of the FEMA guidelines and things that we having to work with, I mean, if it wasn't particularly damaged in the storm, I mean, then the school system would have to pay for any upgrades from that aspect. So, I mean, we're doing, like on the spectator gym, and when I say on the inside, I mean, we having all brand new floors, vinyl floors, ceiling grid, tile, new tiles, new lights and all that. So all that is going to be a complete, I mean, so we're going from the old type of lights they had in there to new LED lights, okay? So we'll be doing the same thing on the main building, sir.
Okay, yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, Mr. Harding.
Yeah, thank you. Merlin, I think you answered the question. I was gonna ask a question about those high-tech lights, because some of our gyms have like dark spots. So we going, what type of light do you have?
LED?
LED?
Yes, sir.
Okay. all
Same
right.
thing we put in all the schools we've been building, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other board members? Mr. Leared, are we still looking at January, having it ready?
Yeah, that's the contract time frame, as we said, I think it was 215 days. So, you know, we issued a notice of intent to award to Thompson Construction last week so they can begin the submittal and shop drawing process to help expedite things. I mean, because of time delays with material, things like that. But according to the subcontractors and material suppliers I'm talking to, the metal roofing is not that, it's only not that far out anymore. The insulation that used to be a big thing right after the storm hit is gotten down to normal conditions. So I don't anticipate any kind of time. And we found, like I said, we found the brick with a brick supplier. He matched the existing brick on the outside. He actually found some in a brickyard somewhere. So I don't think we have any issues with time. The big thing that may come up or something, you know, the biggest lead item right now is the AC systems, because we're changing out all the complete AC system in this gym. The I think it's 4 that you had on the walls, those are gone, okay? We're gonna be putting in a newer AC system with ducts, you know, similar to what we have in the gym at Southdown, you know, so, but yeah, so that's the biggest lead item, but I think, you know, we're gonna work to it from that aspect. You know, the bleachers, we're working through the state contract, you know, to get that situated, which is, you know, it's out of the school board's gonna buy that separate and independent, so save some dollars on that, so.
Okay, very good. Any other questions for Mr. Leroy? Yes, Mr. Hamlin.
Did I hear you say a completion date of 215
15 days.
days?
Yes, sir.
Beginning when?
When we gotta accept the contract through the full board and things of that sort. I can't authorize them
Right.
to begin until the full board, and then we have all the bonds and everything like that.
answers my question.
Yes, sir.
And there will be a penalty clause in case they go beyond 215 days?
There is, there's all, yes, standard, yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Leroy.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. Did I go to you guys already? I don't remember if I went to y'all or not. I did. Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Number 14, consideration of approval for substantial completion of the baseball field of South Terrebonne High School. The committee recommends that the board approve and accept the substantial completion dated February 17, 2023 for the baseball field at South Terrebonne High School and ratify a change order in the amount of $55,906, subject to the punch list. Upon completion of the punch list and final inspection, balancing change order and receipt of the lien-free certificate, authorize the release of retainage, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. So move Dr. Trahan, second Mr. Harding. Any public comments? Dr. Trahan?
I just want to say I've been to the field a couple of times, and it's beautiful. It's really the highlight to be able to go on South Terrebonne's campus and see something that's put back together. It just did my heart good.
Thank you, Dr. Trahan. Mr. Harding?
No.
Any other board members? Yes, Mr. Crowdis.
Do we know what the change order, what's the change order?
Change order. I don't know, that would be,
Scott?
there we go.
What's the change order?
So the change order was a way for us to take funding so that we can also support the reconstruction of the H.L. Bourgeois playing field at the time. So we took the money from there, worked it in a change order to correct that particular field as well, which is also substantially complete.
H.O. Bourgeois?
Yes.
You said, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other board members? If I'm correct, nothing, I mean, since we're talking baseball, I believe they find out,
They played
Found out
Thibodeau,
last
they
night.
played Thibodeau tomorrow night, no, Thursday night.
okay, so they have to play Thibodeau to decide if they're gonna make the playoffs, or they're in the playoffs.
That's round one.
Round one of the playoffs, so, okay, good.
Best-
Just thought I'd throw
best-
that out there.
Best of three. Round one is best of three.
Okay, got it, all right. Okay, well, good luck to them.
Yeah.
Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Number 15, consideration of approval for substantial completion of the HVAC project at Terrebonne High School. The committee recommends that the board approve and accept the substantial completion dated April 4th, 2023 for the HVAC renovation upgrade project at Terrebonne High School. Increase the contract time by 158 days due to material delays and ratify a change order in the amount of $36,446, subject to the punch list. Upon completion of the punch list and final inspection, balancing change order and receipt of the lien-free certificate, authorize the release of retainage, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. So move Mr. Harding, second Dr. Trahan. Public comments? Mr. Harding? Dr. Trahan? Any other board members? Mr. Ford?
So this project was done in place of the H.L. Bourgeois one that's gonna be this summer. This was ESSER funds. I just wanna make sure if I'm correct on that. I think this was money that came from COVID. Okay. Thank you.
Good question. Mr. Hammond?
Gotta ask, what, would we sign a contract with them and we give them a timeline, why are we absorbing the material delays instead of the contractor?
Not sure, Mr. Oshron, can you answer that? Contract time. by-
You act because of the change order?
Nope, it says, increase the contract time by 158 days due to material
Materials delay.
delays.
I'm gonna call Mr. Frank Thompson.
Ratify the change order, so
Mr.
yeah.
Hamner?
Oh, he's here?
He's here.
Okay, Mr. Thompson?
Frank Thompson, Thompson Luke and Associates, I was the designer. That 158 days, the no-cost change order, that's just days. The change order was for adding lights in the corridors. We changed out, put new ceilings in. The lights were old and yellowed, and so we made the decision to go ahead and put new LED in all 3 floors. Came out looking great. Also, it took care of new condensate lines in the corridor for all the fan coil units because they were stopped and backing up, and we had issues with them that we realized after the fact. So while we had everything down, we put in a new drainage system for them. Also, whenever we got into it, we started the 3rd floor a month early before the kids got out. So, and then the 3rd floor, we realized fed the auditorium, so we had to add a set of temporary chill water lines to feed the auditorium because the principal came to us and said that they need to use the auditorium during that last month for programs and other school activities, so we had to provide air conditioning to that. So, and we did a little bit of ceiling patchwork with that. So that is the $36,000 that is called for in this, which is the change order, but the days were, had no cost to them. It was just adding days because the chillers and the air handlers the chillers were nearly a year to come in. It's just, we were in the time period when it was at our longest lead delivery issues, and it's what you're seeing in automobiles and everything right now. So that's why we had to give them days because of that.
But my question, was it the cost? I knew there was no additional cost, but there's a penalty clause in the contract that says if it goes beyond, if I'm not mistaken, if it goes beyond a certain amount of time, then contractor pays a penalty.
Correct, but if we do a change order to give them days for something that's out of their control, then it doesn't kick in until, unless we don't want to give them those days. They would get the LDs or liquidated damages. If it was in their control and they didn't do what they needed to do to get the project completed, we would absolutely hit them with liquidated damages. But this was something out of their control, and I think it's prudent to give them the days.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Crowdis?
So I just want to try to understand what I think I just heard you say.
Sure.
So you said that the $36,000 was for lighting.
Yes, sir, lighting and some other things.
So the work's already been done?
Yes, everything's complete. The job is done.
So we're
Yes.
being asked to approve something that's already been done?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah,
What would happen if we didn't approve it? Where would we go from there?
Well, we did it during last summer. During the summer, we had to get all this work done.
Okay,
And we ripped out the ceilings, we put in new chill water.
Right.
Put in new fan coil units. We had to get the ceilings back in for fire marshal
Right.
reasons before the kids came back, August 5th or 6th, whenever they came back. We were really under the gun for this. We spoke to members, people we were working with the school board, and it was prudent to put in new lighting because of the looks. The drainage was an issue. What we looked at it missing insulation all once you exposed it, so we made the decision to
so
do
in a
that.
technical sense, it's already been approved?
It's already been done, yes, and hopefully we would.
Okay, the process was a little confusing to me,
Yes,
so.
it was because of timing.
I got you.
Because we had to get it done during these things
Okay.
popped up, we need to get it done during the school summer.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Mr. Ford. Okay, we're good.
Mr. Ford first, because he may ask the right question.
Okay, Mr. Ford.
So I understand why Mr. Crowder asked that question.
Sure.
It's kind of on all our minds, but I do want to say that having taught at Terrebonne and having gone to Terrebonne, I know how the condition there was in before. So I appreciate you guys taking that proactive approach to go ahead and do the lighting, get the HVAC system working with the extra chiller lines to go to the
Yes.
auditorium. I would just, and I know that this project wasn't the project that it was supposed to be initially. because of this
Yeah.
situation, right? And because of the time. Sure. But I don't feel comfortable doing that very often because we have been under the gun lately. A lot of people are holding us to timelines and holding us to contractual obligations that have fallen out of our control, but we're having to pay the price for it. So in this case, I appreciate you guys what you did and getting the job done for our students for the backwards schools.
And one other point that I hope y'all appreciate is we had a condensed summer because the school, because kids were making up for missing for the hurricane, so they didn't get out till later. So we had a very short window to get an extreme amount of work done. And, we consulted folks with the school board when we made these decisions to expedite it. But no, this is not normal. I would bring you a change order. You guys grant that, and then we tell them to proceed. But this was an abnormal situation. Do apologize for that.
That's okay. I thought that's what the process
Yes,
should be. I
yes.
just wanted
You're
to
correct.
Make sure that I was hearing correctly.
Mr. Hamner?
But did I hear you say the change order was done in the summer?
It was done in the summer with some of the work, yes.
Of 2022 was the summer.
The summer, yes.
Summer of 2022 was when the change order was made. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Harding.
Yeah, I kind of concur with a couple of my board members, but I just want to make some points here. Is that I'm sure that this vendor would not just have done it on their own unless they have got approval from our superintendent. And like to say that sometimes these things happen. I'll give you a prime example. Every once a month, we accept and approve executive session of bills that have already been paid. So there's nothing unusual that we haven't done before. So, I mean, I can understand some people might not actually like that, but sometimes it happened that way. So I just want to just throw that out there.
Yeah, thank you. And we did, vet them and went through the change orders and made sure the pricing was right and did our due diligence on that. So, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Mr.
I
Ford.
want to make sure it's clear. I'm not disappointed at all. I'm pleased that y'all did that. I know that's kind of out of the scope of what you normally would do. You're fully capable of doing the lighting and the ceiling and stuff. When I said a proactive approach, I meant you guys said, hey, this needs to be done. Do you mind if we do this for you instead of having to go to another bid and get someone else involved? That's what I'm talking about. Now, I do appreciate that you guys did that, and like our other board members, I kind of wish we had an opportunity to approve it beforehand, but being the situation as it is, I'm glad that we were able to get this done.
And that's the normal process, and we absolutely will definitely follow that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any objections?
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hearing none, motion passes. At this time, we're going to pull 16, 17, and 18. It will be readdressed very soon, next meeting. So we're pulling 16, 17, and 18. Number 19, consideration of approval for a window replacement project at Oak Lawn. The committee recommends that the board issue a notice to proceed as per contractual agreement to Orchestrate LLC for plans and specifications for a window replacement project at Oak Lawn Middle School. Funds to be derived from the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act, CRRSA, ESSER 3. Authorize the advertising of bids. Direct that plans and specifications be approved by the board prior to advertising of bids, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. So move, Mr. Harding.
Second.
Dr. Trahan. Public comment. Mr. Harding?
No.
Dr. Trahan?
No, sir.
Any other board members? Okay. Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Number 20, consideration of approval for selection of architect for this design of South Terrebonne Middle School. The committee recommends that the board select an architect for the design of South Terrebonne Middle School from the proposals submitted. So move, Mr. Harding.
I have a alternative motion.
Substitute motion?
Substitute motion.
Okay. let's.
Substitute motion would be the committee recommends the board select option 1 by Orchestrate LLC for the design of the new middle school adjacent to South Terrebonne High School. Issued a notice to proceed as per contractual agreement for plans and specifications for the construction of the middle school. Direct that plans and specifications be approved by the board prior to advertising of bids, and further authorize the advertisement of bids, funding to be derived from a combination of FEMA reimbursement funds and local funds pending FEMA approval.
So a motion by Dr. Traha, second by Mr. Harding. Any public comments? Yes, sir. Any public comments? Okay, Dr. Traha made the motion. And I'm gonna go to, wait. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Ogeron. I'm gonna let you go, Mr. Ogeron. Well, I was asking the board, the committee members, but you want to speak on it first?
That's any other board, but I just wanted to kind of explain the
Yeah,
process.
why don't you do that?
The full process.
Are you proposing that the design that was submitted be the design for South Terrebonne Middle? Because that's what your
Option
motion.
one.
Option 1.
You're proposing option 1, that design that was submitted exactly the way it is?
No.
Because the
He can
motion
explain
needs to be
why.
clarified, but go ahead, Superintendent
Okay,
Orgeron.
all right. I got your point, yes, sir. So this process is in regards to LaCache Middle School. So LaCache Middle School is considered, I'll say quote unquote, substantially damaged. That doesn't mean it's structurally unsafe or unsound. It's substantially damaged, which means when we go to repair the school, because of the elevation and meeting code requirements, it's gonna throw it into a category of a rebuild replacement rather than a repair. That's putting it very simply. So with that said, we had a decision to make. Do we rebuild it where it's at? Do we rebuild it on property that the board purchased in 2014? 40 acres of property right adjacent to South Terrebonne High School, for the purpose in 2014 of moving schools if and when needed. We're at that point. We have high elevated property ready to be built on with, obviously a lot of work. The next thing I want to talk about is and I've mentioned this before, the facility task force. Mr. Hamner, Dr. Trahan were on this task force, as well as members from the community, parents, a lot of people, and it's all in this book. One of the recommendations from the task force on page 12, they gave a list of recommendations after doing a 2-year study of all of our facilities, looking at everything from air conditioning to the age of the buildings, everything. On page 12, it says this as one of the 6 specific recommendations. One says LaCache and Montague Middle Schools. The recommendation is that a school complex located to South Terrebonne High School be constructed to combine both schools. So that was a recommendation. The storm perpetuated this possibility. Right now, Montague Middle and LaCache, they're sharing everything extracurricular. They have like one football team combined. They have band combined for marching. Cheer and dance, it's all combined because they're small. Part of the recommendations as well talks about consolidation and the benefits of consolidating schools. We go from 2 schools that are about 300 kids and one's about 400 kids to one substantially sized school at about 700 kids. There's a lot of benefits. We can talk a lot about that, in length. But with that said, to move this project forward, what we did, we sent a letter out to all RFP vetted architects, all architects that were kind of in our pool, if they were interested in submitting a proposal for this school. We had a meeting. We told them we wanted certain things. We wanted a front elevation, a drawing, a basic floor plan. We gave them all the specs of the school. Number of classrooms, number of the enrollment numbers. We talked about little wasted space, a 2-phase project, safe and simple. We wanted a blending with the school, with the South Terrebonne School, because they'll be side by side. We had 4 submittals, 4 architects submitted. We narrowed it down to three quality architects, really excellent architects. Plan 1 was Orchestrate, and that's Shelley, Olivier. Plan 2 was Merlin and Andy, Merlin Lered and Andy Positeri. Plan 3 was Jeremy and Bruce, and that's Daniel Bruce. 3 excellent architects. At that point, we posted the plans in my office. I sent digital copies of the plans to the board to pick their favorite plan, just kind of based on the overall design concept of the plan. I mean, we don't have a whole lot to go on but a floor plan and an elevation shot, just to give us an idea of where that architect's kind of style is. Okay, so with that said, I took the votes from the board, and the majority went with option 1, so hence the recommendation of option 1. Okay, that's the background of the process. Just wanted to kind of share with you.
Understand all that, participated and all that, but that's not what the motion, the way I interpret it, says. That, you know, I thought we were picking an architect to come back with
No,
a plan, but the way the motion reads is that y'all are picking an architect and a plan.
no, architect for the design, to do the design work,
design.
basically.
You might have to
Not
read it
the,
back.
not the design, but for the design of the building. Not for that design, but for them to do the design work. Yeah.
Would you like it reread?
Yeah, could you read it back?
That the board select option 1, Orchestrate LLC, for the design of a middle school adjacent to South Terrebonne High School.
But, you know, select option 1 is what's confusing me, because that option 1 is that design that's hanging on Bubba's wall.
I think,
All right, I have no problem with orchestrate, yeah. But you putting in there that building by saying option 1, that design.
See, I don't see it like that.
Well, you know, I
I
do.
understand what you're seeing, but I don't think I think another way to look
Okay,
at it is
you explain it to
we're picking
me.
that one based on that plan, that architect, not that plan. We're picking that
Can it-
architect.
can you-
Option 1 is the option of the architect.
It's just defining which one it is. It's plan 1. It's not the plan.
But we're
it's
not
plan
picking
1.
plan 1.
That's right.
All right,
But
so why
that's-
put it in there?
No, yeah.
I can
We
fix
could
all
scratch that.
Okay, Mr. Ford.
I can fix all that. The verbiage simply has to say, based on option 1, the selection is orchestrate. And that's where they design and we choose from there.
We'll take out
So-
select and put based on
That
option
work?
1.
That makes,
You don't even need to put option 1,
Yeah.
because that's not the building I hope you pick.
no.
Yeah, so
It's-
just
it's-
throw it
it's
out.
the basis.
Orchestrate is clear winner of the design I looked at it as a design
Design
contest,
concept.
So,
not the design.
Right.
But you had some good concepts in there that could make a beautiful school. For hopefully, and I'll say this out loud, for hopefully LaCache and Montague Middle at the same time. That's yet to come.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Ford?
yeah, I did have some comments and it was, it wasn't really regarding initially my comment wasn't regarding the verbiage of that. It was on the item. And I just want to say that first and foremost, I always want to choose local if possible. Fortunately, the 3 architects we were looking at were all local, so that's great. And I mentioned it earlier, we're trying to stick to the same similar design as South Terrebonne. I think that's what the community wants. But I also really support the idea of taking that synergistic approach where we're combining. Because, yes, this can be a little confusing if you're not listening very carefully, but I have said in the past, we've built communities around schools. But that's at the elementary level. That's at the primary level. When you get to middle school and high school, it's time to start bringing those resources together, just like they're doing in Lafourche Parish with the middle school, just like we have here on the west side of Terrebonne Parish. The reason why is because when you get to that middle school, junior high, whatever you want to refer to it, you know, the competition starts coming into play, and the identity with that high school that you're feeding into starts coming into it. I've seen a lot of trouble in the years that I've taught at high schools where they had separate feeders from the middle schools with those identity crises, right? With students coming in and, you know, I'll give you an example. At Thibodeau High, we have a lot of ninth grade students that have come in, I'm East, I'm West, or I'm BCA, right? And it's those three schools that are coming in together that we're having trouble with, you know? And it's that ninth grade level a lot of times. So I appreciate bringing them all together. And I really hope that we do have a schoolhouse that we can, you know, that looks to be like a South Terrebonne feeder. You know, we don't want them to have an identity crisis when they get to South Terrebonne also. So, and I'm hoping that in the long run, we can do the same thing on the west side.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good point, Mr. Ford. Dr. Tron?
That's a good point. I've been in schools that the identity issue played a big part in the incoming classes coming in. I've never worked at a high school, but I did work at a middle school that pulled from a lot of elementary schools, and the same things happen. But Montague Middle and LaCache have been blood brothers and sisters for so long with all the extracurriculars together. They almost are already one. They are. They work everything, all the bands, all the athletics, all clubs, all kind of things. They're already doing together. So I think it's going to be an easy transition for them when it comes to pass that Montague Middle joins LaCache. But thank you, Mr. Hamner, for your help in creating a better recommendation.
I'll give you one more little recommendation. Go ahead and throw in Montague Middle at the same time. Like, why wait? Why wait?
It might be because of money issues.
Why? Let's direct them to find the money.
Mr. Kraus.
Mr. Crowder?
Actually, I was going to kind of mention what Mr. Clyde said. I think we should work towards doing it simultaneously, because I think the way that it's planned in two different phases, I think time works against you in this particular situation where you build a wing, put one school in it, wait a few years, build the second wing, bring a second school in it. So I do agree with Mr. Hamner on that aspect. If that can be worked out, I do believe that would be the better way to go, the smarter way to go.
Okay.
I understand there are lots of obstacles, but that's just an opinion.
Okay.
The current recommendation, excuse me, may I?
Yes, yes.
The current recommendation does not mention the two phases, but I agree. That's something we're gonna have to put together as, at some point in the future, but I agree. I would like to, revise my original alternative motion to saying that the board select Orchestrate LLC for the design of the new middle school.
So throwing away option one.
And
Just saying
take, and
select.
delete option one, select option one.
Any, so move, Mr. Harding, second myself. Any other board comments, or do we need public comments on that? Board comments?
Who's the project manager on that?
That would, yep. Would you like to?
Program managers, Gainer.
I would be managing the project. The project managers that are heading up the Hurricane Ida recovery work won't be participating in this project.
Come up and tell us about it.
Well, I would, but apparently you don't like to build it. Okay. Basically, we attempted to not only pull architectural elements from South Terrebonne High School and integrate it into our design, but also sort of modernize it, bring it up to speed, and kind of give it not necessarily an elementary, because it is a middle school, right? But it needs to be scaled to a middle school. and not a high school and seem a little overbearing, right, to the students that are that age. Our strategy was, in terms of our floor plan, to keep the common areas such as library, science, computer lab, all of those areas towards the very front of the school. And then make sure that all the classrooms were extensions towards the rear, completely fenced in, just kind of helping out with safety issues and allowing for us to easily add on for phase 2. And I'm sure you've seen the floor plan, and that was the strategy behind that. As far as the site circulation and how that flows, we really felt like how you enter and exit the site of the high school and the middle school needed to be kept separate, meaning they have their own parent pickup and bus loop, which would be completely separate loops, because otherwise it gets into a clustered mess, right? They would have the same shared driveway, though, heading towards the back to the sports, right, to the sport complexes. So we purposely put the future, football field and any additional, the 2 softball fields towards the back, so that way that whole rear area becomes, an athletic complex, area. And it also reduces, concrete driveway, just having at least sharing that common driveway to the rear. The part of the phase 2 is the gymnasium, as you know. And we easily went ahead and integrated that behind the cafetorium and kitchen area, trying to keep, again, those common areas next to each other and easily be able to tap into all of the utilities that the kitchen is already going to be set up for. Versus a flat roof, we suggest a standing seam roof, in the south. We'd like to take in some brick and match the brick as best as we can to the high school. Also using some fiber cement board cladding that we've been using, or Lafourche Parish has been using quite successfully. The material's actually all over my daughter's school and my son's school. Mr. Daniel Bruce right here could probably give you a long list of schools that Lafourche has used that product for. So we'd like to mix a little bit of that in there to add some color and match the panels that you see on the front of the 2-story portion. As you know, the majority of South Terrebonne is elevated. Kind of has a open, arcade look at the bottom. So we wanted to mimic that at the middle school and have an arcade in the front to kind of assist with covering, students while they're waiting for parent pickup and bus pickup. And that kind of helped kind of draw the 2, schools compositionally together. What else?
Can I ask you a quick question? Can you come up with a design that is simple and cost-effective that that could possibly make it affordable for the school system to do both schools at once?
I do believe so, and this
That's
is.
all I needed to hear.
This is what I wanna say, and I know it's premature, that's why I looked at Adam. Okay? But I've been working, I was the architect assessing for LaCache. Did the hurricane assessment and the repair estimate for LaCache and East Street, which both are substantially damaged, as we talked about. And both of them have to be elevated more than 3 feet. And there's literature all over that says, FEMA says, we can't do that. We can't waterproof, as an alternative to elevating, we can't waterproof. We can't build, a giant, wall or levee around it. We can't do any, what's the term? Any waterproofing, any dry waterproofing. So, with that said, in my report, I put together an estimate of what it would take to rebuild the school on the same site to at the proper elevation, which I believe was 9 feet, maybe 8.5. At LaCache, I came up with a cost. That this isn't meaning that FEMA's going to approve this, okay? This is all still in the works. You know, All South is really working hard for you guys, right? For LaCache, I came up with 14.3 million. For East Street, I came up with 9.79 million. That's a total of 24.14 million. That's a good amount if FEMA helps you out.
These are cap funds that could be applied toward the school.
Thank you. I should have started out with
And
that.
of course, there's other places we could put, like an East Street, somewhere else.
Yes, yes. East Street is pretty substantially damaged. And you can't take these schools, I mean, we had a structural engineer analyze them. You can't take the existing schools and elevate them. You can't. You can't. I mean, LaCache was built, I think, in the 50s. So, we can't do that.
Thank you very much, Shelley. I appreciate you taking the time to answer my questions.
Anyone else while I'm up here?
Anyone else? Mr. Ford?
Not a question, but more of a comment. You did mention, and look, you put a lot of thought into the design, and you just articulated that, and I'm very appreciative. One of the things you said was security, and that needs to be paramount. Now, I know we want to have a school that looks nice. We want to have a school that represents that community and gets kids excited about the next level, the high school. But first and foremost, it needs to be secured.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to. So just the fact that we started looking at this on day one, that's what I'm excited about. And I'm not saying the others wouldn't have, but that's what I want to keep at the forefront. I don't want to nitpick on little things, but let's get it done, and let's try to do it in the fashion that we can do both into one at the same time. That would be great. So, thank you.
Anyone else? I would like to say that all three structures were very, very well done. I did like your design. I don't know what they're talking about. They didn't care for it, or I'm not sure, but I loved it, with a couple of tweaks we had talked about. And again, I hope, like the rest of them, feel that we can put both schools there at the same time to get it done.
I
But
agree.
Thank you for your
May I ask a
explanation.
question?
Sure.
And this might be a bold question. Mr.
Go for it.
Mr. Hamner, well, we went through this process. Like we said, it was a design competition. And I'm not this is purely schematic, right? We call this schematic design. Pre-schematic design. And we were graded off of that design. So, and now we're sort of saying, well, this isn't about the design. This is about just hiring the architect. We don't necessarily want to build that building, or that you hope that we don't build that building. So, I know this is a bold question, but why go through the process and why deny that design?
It's, I'm not speaking on your behalf, but it's more modifications than a complete.
Okay,
It's things
that I can digest.
Yes. if
That I
makes
can
sense.
digest, because man, all that hard work, and you say, oh no, whew, all right.
I think it's just a tweaking of the little
Tweaks,
Yeah, it's not.
I completely
things like
understand.
that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't make it that simple as far as my decision. I'm going with it. I like some of the concepts you put in it.
Okay.
Like the outdoor learning areas. It appeared that the cafeteria area was going to be big enough for 2 schools.
Oh, yeah.
But it also appeared that the conceptual, if in my head anyway, I interpreted it to be more of a, not just a cafeteria with 4 walls, but I kind of envisioned it being something that visually the kids, it'd be more of a common area instead of, instead of a traditional cafeteria in the middle of the building that,
Yeah.
those type, and so it was the concepts that you had in there that I particularly liked.
Thank
The
you.
simplicity of the design, it appeared that it would be, I'm not cheap by far, but I'm always looking to save a buck.
Yeah, I hear you on that. And on one side note, my business partner and I were talking about the cafetorium, and, the gymnasium will be an alternate, or it sounds that we might do an alternate for that price, for that project. The cafeteria let's call it a cafetorium, right? And that's its multi-purpose use. But there are schools out there that actually utilize their cafeteria as sort of a mini gym. You know, I mean, it can be designed, like even full-blown basketball goals that can fold down.
Or just even common areas, you know? like-
Right.
Like
Like
a
a
food
student
court in a
mall.
mall or
Yeah.
something, you know?
Mhm.
For lack of a better way to say it. Anyway.
Yep.
Anyone else?
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank y'all.
So let's see, no, where are we? So that's the motion. It has been seconded, went to public. Check with everybody else. Any objections?
That's y'all too.
Hearing none, motion passes. The substitute motion. Yeah, I gotta keep it together here. Number 21, consideration of approval of a request to FEMA as it pertains to Eleanor Memorial High School Hurricane Ida recovery. The committee recommends that the board approve and authorize the superintendent and staff to proceed with a request to FEMA for the demolition and replacement of Eleanor Memorial High School on the current site. So move, Dr. Trahan?
Yes.
Second, myself. Any public comments? You want to speak on it?
I'd like Adam.
Okay.
Adam to come up and speak, please.
Yep, Adam. How you doing?
Hello, Adam LaFour, All South. So I just want to give a summary to show how we got here. I know last year over the summer, we announced we were going to plan to repair the building the same time we decided with South Terrebonne, Upper Little Caillou, and Grand Caillou. At that time, we did our cost estimates. We came back with our replacement values, and Ellender is one big school. And we were at mid 40% at that time. We were close, but we weren't quite there. This was around June, July. Since then, we did abatement of the school last summer, where we went in and we took out the debris, we took out all the abatement, and we could see more of the building. Also at that time, Craig, the architect, went and had structural assessments done of the building, and he started the design for the repairs. Part of this design is to make sure that the building can meet code. This building is not a new building, has to meet uplift for wind loads and multiple various code upgrades. At that time, we found some more additional damages throughout the building that you couldn't see until you had the walls taken out, you had the abatement done, and you had the contents out of the facility. Some of the additional damages that were found that we had to include into our estimate was a new metal stud exterior wall to support the new roof, addition of new roof purlings for the wind load for 2 of the wings, installation of a new roof deck, and then also the main thing is the skylights. Those skylights that we have at Ellender, they're massive. They're not made, they're custom pretty much. We had to wait to get quotes. We know one vendor so far that will do that, and they're from Ohio. So that was a major cost to try to get those skylights in. Those skylights are your roof in those 2 wings. It's a major thing to meet wind load of today's standards. That added a lot of cost to the repair estimate, and at this time there was a lot of, when you kept digging, you found more damage, and we realized we were over 50%. We're at 55% right now, with an estimate of 18.2 million for repairs. And we think it's, or at least from our opinion, that move forward request from FEMA for the replacement, because there's so much that we still don't know that we may uncover, and we'd rather, almost if we can, get a new school out of it. The 50% calculation is different than what the actual repair calculation will be. It's used, so since that time, we also submitted Upper Little Caillou and Grand Caillou to FEMA for 50%. When we came to y'all last time, they were around 55, 56%. After multiple conversations with FEMA, they've kind of giving us guidance on how to help that number. Those two, when we finally submitted them, were at 65%. So that also helped get this building over 50%. And for us, if you want to have a new school, this is the time to do it. We're gonna fight, and we have already been meeting with FEMA to discuss this step. So they may be, once we have it, if y'all approve, we'll start that process, and we're hoping we can expedite it just as much as we are with Upper Little Caillou and Grand Caillou.
Very good explanation. You want to piggyback on that?
If you have any questions, or if Craig, you have anything to add to that?
Let's stay up, Adam.
Good evening. As Adam said, the more we dove into this, the more we started evaluating, the more we realized there were other issues similar to other projects. I've used this analogy, the domino effect. And as one thing would turn over, something else would reveal itself. And so at the end of the day, I think it was yesterday, we submitted to All South a little over, I think, $1.2 million in additional damage that has been discovered and needs to be corrected. So that's what started this process. So if you have anything specific, please ask it.
Mr. Crowder?
Okay, so basically what I understand is that the more you're looking into it, you're determining that Ellender is basically totaled, like a car in a wreck or something like that. It's just totaled. It's not worth repairing. Is that correct?
That's a very difficult question to ask in the context of how FEMA is
Right.
related to this process.
So if, where would the funds have come from if we decided to repair Ellender? Same source. Would we be in the hole more or less for if you decided to rebuild Ellender completely?
So if the plan would be to rebuild it on site. So FEMA will pay 90% of whatever cost it would be for repair or replacement of it, whatever the actual cost is in the end.
Okay, so they're still covering 90%,
Yes.
holding the 90%. Thank you very much.
Mr. Ford?
I know that a lot of times these inspections, evaluations, and these, I guess the build-ups to that decision can be subjective, and I know there's ways to find damages that we need to get to that number, but I'm gonna tell you, as a board member, I would never agree to rebuild South Terrebonne if we weren't agreeing to rebuild Ellender, because I think that would have been a travesty to this entire community, the stakeholders, and the morale thereof. If we would have said, yes, we're gonna rebuild South Terrebonne completely, but we're only gonna repair Ellender. So I'm glad you guys did the due diligence to go in and find and dig even further, you know, do the remediation, get the things out of the way so we can look and see what's really there, because that would have been a tough pill for the community and this board to swallow, to say that we were gonna rebuild South Terrebonne.
Oh my God.
Well, that's the 50% also though, right? So when was that decision changed? Because as far as I was under the impression that the South Terrebonne was a complete rebuild on property.
Never was.
No, that was never.
So then I'm incorrect in saying that we're gonna rebuild Ellender but not rebuild South Terrebonne. So it's the opposite. So then, yeah, here we go, same thing. I don't agree with that. I think we need to dig further in South Terrebonne.
I see your point, and that's another architect that's on South Terrebonne.
Yeah.
I think he's did all the digging he can do, and he's probably, I don't know, bro, if you wanted to come up now, and you're at 35, 40%, I don't know.
See, that's news to me, because the last I heard, it was a year ago, we talked about the the numbers came back.
Well, I can tell a little bit just also. So the history of between South Terrebonne and Ellender is South Terrebonne was remediated after the storm, so there was not as much damage compared to, and the way FEMA looks at it, it's per building. South Terrebonne consists of multiple buildings throughout the whole school, so the size difference, Ellender just one building. I think South Terrebonne has maybe 8 buildings encapsulated in all of it. So that's why the numbers look a bit different also. You can't really compare them, and I think that's why we initially were going for the repair of Ellender initially, was to be the same, but you're finding more behind, mainly because we found abatement, but that was already done at South Terrebonne previously. So there's not much new discovery at South Terrebonne compared to Ellender.
Okay, so then I guess maybe it's on me that I've been using the wrong verbiage, but I was under the impression it was a rebuild in place. So you're saying it's a repair in place? That changes my opinion about all of it, but that's fine.
Dr. Trahan?
Yes. I live in the heart of South Terrebonne area. The building itself is Mr. Voisin's district, but everybody that lives in my community around me is South Terrebonne. And I think I feel the pulse of that community very strongly. And they are looking forward to the timeline we've given them, that in 2 more school years, we're looking at being back in our building. They are excited that they get to keep their South Terrebonne. I don't think it's gonna be a problem not rebuilding. I really don't. That's the way I have seen it, in my humble opinion, that my constituents are looking forward to being in their school in a couple of years, with that timeline for repair, and that we've provided. So I think we'll be fine with an Ellender rebuild and a South Terrebonne repair.
I do have a question, though. So what was done at Ellender was also done at South Terrebonne already. So we're not going to find any surprises at South Terrebonne that we found with Ellender. Okay. Okay. Very good. All right. Any other board members? Let me see where I'm at with all this. That was recommendation number 21. Anybody else?
Any objections?
Anybody, any other questions? Thank you, gentlemen. So any objections? Hearing none, recommendation passes. Number 22. 22, I think I have to go to, let's see. Number 22 is consideration of approval of a bid received for the HVAC and window replacement upgrade project at Legion Park Elementary, and that one is here, I believe. Okay. The committee recommends that the board approve and accept the lowest bid received, meeting all specifications for the HVAC and window replacement upgrade project at Legion Park Elementary School from BET Construction, Inc., P.O. Box 5658, Thibodaux, Louisiana 70302, in the amount of $2,135,500, and establish a total project budget in the amount of $2,353,450, funds to be derived from the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, ESSER 3, pending receipt of all necessary post-bid documents, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. So move Dr. Traha, second myself. Any public comments? Dr. Traha?
No, sir.
I don't have any. Any other board members? Hearing none, motion passes. Number 23. Hot off the press. Consideration of approval of bid received for site preparation for LaCache Middle School Modular Building Project. The committee recommends that the board approve and accept the lowest bid received, meeting all specifications for the site preparation for LaCache Middle School Modular Buildings Project in response to Hurricane Ida at South Terrebonne High School from Freetown Builders LLC 313 Garden Street, Lafayette, Louisiana, 70501, in the amount of $710,000, and establish a total project budget in the amount of $789,167. Funds to be derived from FEMA reimbursement funds pending receipt of all necessary post-bid documents, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. So move, Dr. Trahan, second myself. Public comments. Dr. Trahan?
No, I'm just glad that this is moving forward, and we'll have our kids in our modulars and in a much more healthier environment next school year than they're in now.
Mr. Bruce, what is our estimated time having it all prepared? If you don't mind coming up, please.
Daniel Bruce, Sherman Bruce Architects. The modular buildings are on site. They're setting those buildings now. We're going to ratify this at the board meeting in May. Notice to proceed May 15th, completion by July 15th.
Awesome. I spoke with someone yesterday, and they had concern, Lakash, moving there as far as like supplies and stuff. So this just popped into my head, like the sports and stuff like that. Will there be a place for them to store things? Well, I don't know if we even thought about that.
We just have to know specifics.
Okay.
Nobody's approached.
Yeah, well, I was at a, it was a basketball coach person that was asking about where we're gonna store supplies, what gym and that kind of stuff.
PE equipment.
Yeah, I guess a little bit of that too, yeah, everything. So I don't know if we had that as a plan, or that's just something we're gonna do as we get to it.
There's a working document with Principal Lakash in our middle school supervisor.
Okay.
So that may be already worked out.
Okay. It just popped in my head because I ran into that person yesterday. Okay, very good. So July.
Mid-July. We got to give
Mid-July.
the school time to wax the floors, move furniture in,
Right.
prep, teachers prep for the kids coming in and at the beginning of August.
Okay,
So
appreciate that.
that's weather permitting, everything goes like it's supposed to. We should be in by mid-July.
Fantastic. Mr. Ford.
I know we covered this when we did the portables at Ellender and South Terrebonne, but just to be clear, the FEMA funds that are covering this, they're lasting until we have the new school built, right? And it doesn't take away from those monies that we're gonna have for the new school. Okay, just wanna make sure.
I had the same question.
Yeah, because we're leasing them.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure.
Yeah, so this temporary campus is a completely different project. It is considered a temporary repair, so it is not affecting any of the permanent work in any of the other facilities.
Okay, thank you.
Good
And
point.
it's at 90% also.
Go ahead. Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Mr. Bruce, appreciate it. Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. All right, number 24, matter bearing upon update of Hurricane Ida response. Ryan Smith, Project Manager, Volkert.
Hi, thank you for sticking around and letting me hear me talk. I think y'all have gotten quite a bit of an update on the design process of how to move forward with buildings. And so hopefully this starts to get a little easier as we move through. What I want to do here is, I know y'all have your updates in the file here, and instead of kind of going over line by line, is what I usually like to do is just sort of hit some highlights, and if y'all have any specifics, then I can certainly dive into those more. Some of the highlights that I have are Acadian, which was approved at the last board meeting. We're going to set a notice to proceed the next week or so and get that project going, which you just did momentarily, just a few minutes ago, was the Coteau Bayou Blue, East Homa, Legion Park, Village East. That package, we had kind of been talking about that over in the past, of packaging these projects together in order to get a better cost and to try to move them forward a little faster. We had just talked about the modulars in Ellender, in Upper Little Caillou. South Down Elementary, I know there's a little concern about that. We had some fascia that is falling off tomorrow. The contractor is bringing a lift out there to pull that down and to make sure that that's safe and secure. There's an active contract on that as well. There's a small amount of work left on that. They have 60 days to finish that, but really it's about 2 weeks worth of work. But we're going to push to try to get that done as soon as possible. Home and junior high, we have 12 days left on the contract, and really we're about 90% done on that roof. There's no, we're very confident that the, that will meet that within that 12 days and get home and junior high roof substantially complete and taken care of. So those are some of the highlights that I have, and then again, as you read through here, a lot of these bid packages are either going out, have gone out. We have contracts. Again, what we've been talking about over the last year is the process of everything: getting damage estimates in, getting big packages out, getting contracts signed, and then getting to the work. And that's really sort of the meat and potatoes of where we are right now, which is both exciting. I know it's been a process in getting here, but now that we're here, strap in, because this is going to go, and this is going to go. There's going to be a lot of activity happening all at once. And so, on that note, what I wanted to mention before I took questions was to mention that as we go through these construction projects, we have two very high priorities. The number one priority that we have is safety. And so we want safety for everybody involved, but kids, teachers, and the contractors themselves. So we need to, as we like to say, everyone's a safety officer. So if there's any unsafe practice going on, that needs to be reported immediately, and we really hound on that through both the starting at the pre-construction meeting, all the way through the monitoring control that the project manager, that Paul and I do on site. And we're going to be on site consistently to monitor that. And so anything, if you catch wind of anything, please feel free to reach out and let us know. But like I said, we're going to be there constantly monitoring that. And that goes for again, the safety of the kids, the teachers, the building, and really even the people doing the work there. That personal protective equipment is going to be heavily enforced. So that's something that we have. And then the other part that is right up there with safety is the operations impact that we'll have in these schools. And I really wanted to mention that just to kind of get ahead of it is, as excited that we are that we're getting repairs done and we're getting things done at these schools, it's a construction site. And so that kind of parallels along with safety, so that we are, that there's going to be noise. We're going to, section everything off, make sure that, visqueen and plastic is covering certain areas. But our goal, I'm sorry, so let me finish that up, to section off those areas, and then also that the kids themselves are probably going to have to move. We're designing it so that our construction sequencing is falling out, so that we're over the summer, we're going to do kind of a swing space area. A lot of those cafetoriums, I think that's as you called it, will be utilized. And so we're going to get those done first, and then certain grades will probably have to utilize that for a few weeks as the repairs go on for the interior work. It's just a reality that we can't do all the work during the summer or during a winter break. It has to be done during the school year. And so again, I wanted to be the first to say it, that that you're going to get calls and that there's going to be concerns, and I think rightfully so, and that we're fully prepared to answer that and provide any information. What we're doing to help mitigate that is that we're coordinating with the school personnel currently right now. So as these contracts have gotten signed, we know the construction schedule and the sequence that we're going to have to do. That the principal's now very much involved, custodian, really all levels are very much involved, so that when we say, hey, we're 2 weeks out of the let's say, the fourth grade corridor, because that's, well, a lot of them, what we've tried to do is try to keep grade levels and move the grade levels out to a swing space. We can work in those areas and then, you know, switch out. But, so they're gonna release, so we'll inform them of, hey, this timing is coming up. Then they'll be able to reach out to the parents and teachers and say, you know, hey, we're going to be in a different classroom for the next few weeks, you know, apologize for the inconvenience. We'll help, you know, with that language and stuff as well. And it's just constantly monitoring that. It's the monitoring and control aspect of project management of really what we do. So they'll issue the notifications to parents and teachers. You know, we'll constantly be, you know, updating them, and you know, the goal will be just nothing last minute. That as we start seeing the future, you know, start forecasting on, hey, these rooms are close to completion. That's when we announce, okay, there's going to be the next, you know, jump to the next level. You know, but if there are any, you know, concerns or comments or anything, please, that's what we're here for, to help address, you know, any of that information. Just said, it's coming up. I mean, it's sort of bittersweet, you know, like any other construction project, right? Is that you kind of have to deal with the repair, but at the same time, at the end of all of it, we'll finally get everything squared away and get things looking good.
Well,
Any questions?
I hear you. I like what you say. Activities, you know, strap in is fixing to happen. That's great. I think the communities are so ready for it. It's like you said, any kind of construction, we got to deal with it, but we know something great's coming. So of course it's going to affect some of the schools and you know, through noise and things like that. But in the long run, hopefully short long run, however you would say it, it's going to be something good. And I think the communities are ready for it. They really are.
Great, and it's just real quick, because I had this on my thing, and to again address those, but then also we've gone through stuff like coming up, as we know right now, is leak testing, right? And so those kind of impacts that we have as well, if they have a, you know, field day, you know, things like that. And so we're really trying to stay in tune with having these, you know, low-level impacts to operations to say, hey, this is how we're going to do it. I just wanted to kind of mention that as well, because that excitement, you know, obviously can kind of fade with, you know, it is an endurance contract, because when you hear it for so long, you're kind of like, all right, when is this going to happen? But our job is to really motivate that, get that through, and get that done.
Very good. Good point, Dr. Trump. Anyone else? Well, appreciate your time.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Looking forward to it. 25, matter bearing upon update Hurricane Ida response. Curtis Lee. Mr. Curtis Lee.
Thank you, man.
Good evening. Curtis Lee with HGI. And I always think that Ryan does a great job, and so I try to edit a little bit of my responses to not be redundant. But what you guys have before you, and I'm a little disappointed that Mr. Dehart's not here tonight. But we'll leave one for him. Is our illustrious arrow here. And we are at the point right now where we're going to go into some of the details in our second page that you guys have before you. But here we're showing our breakdown based off of the number of assigned schools that we have and that percentage of those schools in total for each category here. So we still have 3 remaining schools in the cost evaluation category. Those schools, we're waiting on some direction, and they're being more of a lower priority based off of the complexity that we need for those schools to make that decision. We have 5 schools here in the design development stages, and we'll go over the details of those schools and why. We have 8 schools in the bid document stage that will cover where they are and when those bids will be opening. And then we have 6 schools, which represent 27% of our assignments, that are awarded and either actively in construction or about to go forward, especially with some of the recommendations that were made tonight. Bayou Black starts off the first assignment that we have, which goes down through our 22 schools and school board facilities. Obviously, the status there corresponds to the first page, and where we have abatement/construction, we've covered that because we know that we do have some schools where that has to have that work go simultaneously. And then we have some comments and some dates here that's intended for the board members as you guys take these back to your desk in your office. If you have questions and comments from your constituents, to be a quick reference where you guys can use that and utilize that in between the board meetings. So for Bayou Black, the roof trusses are scheduled to arrive on the 9th of May. And we had some conversations about that, and that contractor feels confident that they should have that entire interior and exterior package for that school ready, or at least substantially complete, with maybe only minimum exterior work to do that won't impede instruction commencing by August of this year. Broadmoor, that was awarded, and that is scheduled to start for the very early part of summer, just as soon as we finish the school year. Dularge, the final approval on that one will be coming from the board. That's been awarded to Global, and that should be starting very early summer as well. The Fletcher facility, we had to go back and do some reevaluation. We had that reevaluation on 4/5, I think it is. Here it states 4/4, but we had that in the first part of this month, where we had Gallo Mechanical to come out and meet with our team, the architect, as well as a school board member, to reevaluate. And what we've determined with a very good letter from them is that there's some additional scope that we want to include there due to some storm-related power surging that knocked out some sensitive control panels for that equipment. And we believe with the approach we have from this mechanical professional that we can push that through and let All South do the fine job that they're doing, and hopefully capture that scope underneath the 90% FEMA funds. Grand Caillou, that one is just still under evaluation to be determined for Grand Caillou Elementary. For the middle school, that's been awarded. The material is procured on that one, and construction is actually scheduled to start on tomorrow for the awnings that will be covering the walkway. HL Bourgeois, we actually had the pre-bid meeting on that last Thursday. It's scheduled for that bid to open next Thursday. We had a very strong turnout. I want to say we had somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 22 contractors combined between general contractors and people that do abatement work. So we're expecting to have some very competitive interest on that bid for those schools. Lisa Park, the interior package is at 90% complete. We're going to be working on finalizing the review for that school this week and getting those submitted back to the board and the FEMA consultants so that we can get that one pushed through. And it's very minimal changes that need to be made with where we are in our current status. Lewis Miller, this one has obviously some complexity due to the amount of facilities that was there. I've been out to that school several times across this month and right before the Easter break, and just trying to detail in very simple fashion. We do have some 50%, as we heard earlier tonight, rules that apply, the 50% FEMA rules that will apply there. So I left you guys some notes with this particular school, as well as we've determined that building MC, NC, and L are not in the flood zone. I don't know if all of that can be seen here in my on my screen. So, okay. So with that being said, we're evaluating what we need to do with those remaining 3 schools. If you guys have some specific questions, the architect is here, and the 2 of us will do our best to try to answer those questions. In addition, we have some additional evaluation, and I've received some data that I'm going to be submitting to the architect and to the building committee that's working with us on the sewer lift station that we're working through as well, to try to get some of those systems covered that sustained some damage beyond the original scope from the storm. Montague Elementary, anticipated announcement of that bid is coming up next week, and that bid opening is scheduled for 2 p.m. So that one we expect to send recommendations to the board and have more details for you guys for next month's committee meeting. We have further evaluations for the middle school on Oak Lawn Middle. The roof construction there is on hold based off the award that went to group contractors, and we're still waiting on some direction for that particular school on how we'll proceed. With Oakshire Elementary, very similar to Lisa Park, we're at the 90% evaluation, and we've got some work to do on that one this week for our final submittal. And moving on, skipping the next 2, for School for Exceptional Children, the fence has been completed. But because that was an old, I think, military facility that has a lot of different buildings on there, we have not yet determined what we're going to do with the various buildings on that facility. But we did take a look at what we could do in the interim. And for Schriever, Moore Corps was awarded roof construction. That one is on hold due to the same issues that you guys may be aware of. So we're working on the interiors. And one of the things that we're going to be bringing to just the TPSD Design Committee is to speak on getting some direction of whether or not we move forward with some of these interiors that may be ready, but wanting to fully discuss the potential, if the exterior building envelopes are not completed and sealed, what that may look like. Specifically, when I remember last month's discussions on some of the insurance and self-insured options that you guys may be going with there. So we'll be working closely with you all on that direction to make sure that we address and mitigate any of those potential risks if there may be some. South Terrebonne High School, the new gym notice of intent is going forward for Thompson Construction, and we'll be getting started with the repairs on that particular school once you guys give the approval. And then for the 4 remaining administrative buildings, those are all scheduled for a 10 a.m. bid opening on the 25th of this month. And so this puts in category the 5 schools that we have under construction, but the lighter blue schools there and the 4 school board facilities will put us at about another 7 or 8 facilities that will be very soon under construction as well, based off of the data here we're reporting.
Okay.
Any questions?
Dr. Trelawney, you have anything? Mr. Hamner?
Yeah, can you elaborate a little bit on why roof construction's on hold by is it by group contractors, or are we holding it on, that's on Oak Lawn? And also, why is it on hold for Schriever?
I can. I wanted to get some direction.
Okay, it's a legal issue, okay. That's all I needed to know. And then the other part of my question was, on the Fletcher facility, what's the interior looking like in there? Is there a lot of interior damage? Do we have any, over time, are there any problems going on the interior of it because of the lack of having a chiller system, those types of things?
So I've been in the interior of that school about 3 times now, just this year alone. And although we have the breach to the roof and we have some broken windows outside, in my opinion, the interior of that school, based off of the nature of the educational instruction and how that school was built, does not have a lot of interior damage due to the delays or not having an AC system that's running. We do have a lot of areas that are concrete and that were built so robustly where they had a lot of the welding machines and those other instructional courses that those things are sustaining well.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Ford.
I understand about the old dual origin Pointe-a-Champ because we're not utilizing those schools anymore, but for Grand Caille Elementary, is it that we're at that position where we were with Ellender, where we're digging to see if we can find more because we needed to hit that 50% mark? No, it's it already, so it's in FEMA's hands, okay. That's what I wanted to make sure, because I wasn't sure where we stood on that one.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other board members? All right, Mr. Lee, thank you very much, appreciate it. Number 26, matter bearing upon maintenance updates, Mr. Poisson. Save the best for last, huh?
Come on, Curtis, move. Thank you. I'll tell you what, these things take longer, but we're getting progress. That's a
Yes.
good thing. They're not gonna get any shorter. Okay, on, some updates. Packet's so thick I can't make it work. We had weekly meetings still with project managers on hurricane repairs. Repaired a canopy at Oak Lawn. I wish Mr. Lagarde was here to hear that. Bubba had called us about it the other day. Well, we got it done in a day. I mean.
Thank you.
The next one is a fence there. They're waiting on parts. I put it on, it was repaired. It was supposed to have been repaired, and it didn't quite make it, but that front corner, just to close that in.
Yeah, 'cause I saw it yesterday.
Yeah, we're gonna try to get that fixed before everything else. It'll be closed off.
Since you're on Oak Lawn, that work that's being done, like in that area, there's a whole lot of construction going on, but not the school. That's not us. Is that
No.
like
No, that's
drainage
not
or
us.
something?
I think they're dredging out the drainage
Okay.
ditch on the side.
All right.
Install a new AC unit in the cafeteria at Evergreen. In fact, put 2 units in there. Repairs to the kitchen unit. So that we had all those go out at one time trying to serve lunch in there. It was hot at Evergreen here. Attended pre-bid meetings and bid openings. Also, we're endeavoring into a new work order system. Y'all can see the little diagram there. We're just starting it out. It's gonna give y'all a little more information if y'all want to see what's going on with it. it's, like I said, it's all in the infant stage right now. We're working out all the bugs, and Sandy's working a lot of the bugs. But it's all coming, and that's all I have.
Any board members, any questions? Mr. Poisson, doing a good job. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. I know without her, we couldn't get anything done. Miss
You're
Sandy.
absolutely right.
Give her a hand. She's so good. Entertain motion to adjourn?
Yes, sir. Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Dr. Trahan, second by myself, public notice. Dr. Trahan, yourself, any other board members? Hearing no objections, adjourn. Oh, I wanted to go pee. Executive? Okay. I got one.
I myself got confused with the back. When you said, give a minute for Becky to get ready with the tape. Big Becky was texting me that she had to step out and couldn't make the committee meeting, and I got confused. I jumped the gun.
With the Beckys?
Yes, I jumped the gun.
Yes. I'd like to call to order the Education, Technology, and Policy Committee. Please make note that in attendance are myself as Vice Chair, Mr. George Don Crowdis as Committee Member, and absent are Ms. Debbie Benoit, Committee Chair. Also in attendance are Mr. Clyde Hamner, Dr. Mabel Trahan, Mr. Dave Voisin, and Superintendent Bubba Ogeron, and members of the staff. Item number 2, matter pertaining to Emerging Leaders Academy, cohort number 3. This is an informational item only by Ms. Angela Rhodes, Chief Academic Officer.
Good evening. No, we can sing and dance. Okay, we just kind of wanted to let you guys know about our Emerging Leaders program that we have going on. We call it the Emerging Leaders Academy. Mr. Angeron did the cohort 1 and cohort 2 when he was assistant superintendent, and so we continued that program this year with cohort 3. I put a list of the members who were chosen after interviews for cohort 3, just so you can kind of see, and we put the schools that they're representing. So we have a, just a kind of a great cross between many of the schools. I'm not gonna read them all to you, but you can kind of see. Real strong group, they're very animated, they're active, they're interactive during our meetings, which was the whole premise of this was to take these people, and they're all aspiring leaders, and we're giving them some skills that they need so that when they do enter into the next phases of their careers, they'll have some foundational skills that they need to enter as strong leaders. Some of the topics that we've discussed, you can read, we talked about our group norms for our first meeting, and we had some of our newer administrators come and do interviews where our 12 members could interview them, ask them questions about what it's like to be a new member, what were some of the most difficult things that they had to deal with, what were some of the things that they wished that they had known before they did that. We have inboxes, we've done those at every single meeting where we have scenarios that really have happened in our schools, and they have to tell us, what would you do? How do you handle this? And then we talk about, okay, these are the policies that you would go to. You can't go wrong if you stick to policy. We also tell them, okay, well, these are the directives we have. These are some of the things that are maybe printed. These are some of the things that are just common sense, and which ones are back to a policy. And then you can also read some of the other things. We've had shadowing experience. They have thoroughly enjoyed going into the schools, and we're giving them an opportunity to see an elementary, a middle, and a high school, and different, like some of them who are teachers are going to see ICLs, they go see assistants, some of them go see principals. So we've heavily embedded policies into everything that we have done with them throughout our, we've had 3 sessions so far. This coming Thursday is our 4th session, and then we have our final session. This coming Thursday, Becky Bro is going to be speaking to them about the importance of finances in the building and how important those finances are for you as a leader to be aware of and not to just assume things or sign off on things. We also are starting our mock interviews where we're taking these people and they're coming and sitting one by one, and we're asking them a question that could be possibly in an interview process, and then they're having to answer those. So the rest of this is just really for you to see some of the work that they did. And you can see Ms. Cook, she said, her topic that she had to talk to them about was, can a leadership team affect the culture and climate in a building? And so she spoke to them. You can see them all sitting around. And then after they did their shadowing experiences, the last picture on the right is one of the groups who came in. When they go shadow, they are looking for specific things in a school. We give them the points that they're searching for, and they come back and they report specific items of what they've seen and discovered. And so that was just some extra pictures of them working in their groups and being interactive in we call it a gallery walk, and they were walking around the room filling things in. So we're excited about these people. They're learning a lot, they're asking a lot of questions, they're realizing that leadership may not be as easy as some of our leaders make it look, but they're also growing in the process, and that's one of the things that we've enjoyed as an instructional staff, watching them grow as leaders. So any questions about?
I actually have a couple of questions, but I'll go to Mr. Krause first. Any questions? Mr. Watson?
Yes. I think this is amazing. Why didn't we have this?
That's what I keep saying.
My God, I mean, the things that they're going to experience and really be able, because it was a learning thing for us,
Right.
process. I'm not applaud y'all for this. This is phenomenal.
So
That's
thanks.
all I want to say.
It's 5 days.
How awesome this is.
I do want to, I appreciate you guys keeping this up and doing a 3rd cohort. I look forward to seeing a 4th and a 5th and 6th and so on. I do want to make sure, though, because I see some names on that list, and they're names that I recognize, and some of them are in leadership positions already, but just for the sake of, being transparent, I wanna know basically what's the application process, if there's qualifications that they have to have now, or, because of course they potentially need to have that certification, which requires, a different degree, a different level than we have as teachers. And how are we recruiting them? Because are we using referrals? Is this something that's announced district-wise, or we could elaborate on that?
Sure. So we run it just like we would if they were applying for a principal and assistant principal. You have to have your master's degree. You have to have 5 years of effective observations in classrooms. But we also put on there, either you have your master's degree or you're actively pursuing it at that time. So we do have one person who is in the program, and she will be finished at the end of this school year with her master's degree. Dr. Yarbrough puts the whole advertisement out, just like we do with anything else. Anybody in the district who qualifies can apply for it. And then we go through an interview process with this time we had 29 applicants, and we were picking a dozen people.
And this is only in the district, only current employees in the district?
Yes, sir.
Are we reaching out to administrators saying, hey, someone on your campus may be a potential leader? Do you have someone in mind that you can encourage them to apply? Is that happening?
We absolutely are doing that. We spoke to them at the principals meeting a month prior to us putting out the applications. And they are having to apply just like any other job.
Okay, so there's requirements to be an administrator, to be a school leader. There's several requirements. Believe me, I know, because I've exhausted that entire bulletin. But my question is this. A lot of times with that certification comes a requirement of the university or someone to sponsor that certification. In other words, like, I'll just use myself as an example because I'm well aware of the situation I'm in. I have the master's, I have the plus 30, I have the school leadership, I've taken the practice 6990, I've passed it. Nicholls State University will not award me the certification until I do their internship, which is required because I would have to enroll in one class for 2 semesters with them, which means I bring more money to that university. Is that something that we're dealing with, we're facing with these applicants? Because I know several people that are qualified, master's degree, not even in school leadership, just a master's of arts in teaching or M.Ed, that aren't being considered for leadership positions because of that, because universities like Nicholls aren't granting them that certification. And I know it comes from the Department of Education, but you have to have a degree program or a university that endorses that certification. So I guess my question is this. Who's taking that information from those applicants and verifying that they're available? Because I would assume that if they're in this program, we can start utilizing them as soon as they're done, right? If we have an opening at one of the schools, we can recruit from the cohort that's in this class. Right?
We can recruit from this cohort, but they do not have to go. It is not a prerequisite, and I'm glad you said that, because a person does not have to go through this program in order to become a leader in our district.
Well, I like the idea of doing this, but I also like the idea that in a situation where we have a school that loses its leader or even an assistant principal, whatever the case may be, I like the idea that superintendent has or either one of you or you two together can go to that cohort and say, hey, look, I have a position that I need filled, and we really don't have time to go and do the advertisement and interviews like we would normally do. Can you come in at least an interim basis, and then maybe that'll set you up for success in the future. So if we're utilizing that, then I think that's doing it effectively like we should.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll definitely keep that in mind.
Any other questions?
Well, I was just gonna ask, how long is the process? Is it a 1-year process?
they just come to 6 day-long sessions.
Oh, okay.
So like for next year, we'll do a cohort in the fall and a cohort in the spring.
Six sessions.
Thank you, Sam, for taking this, taking ownership of this
You're welcome.
program and doing such a fine job. And just to see your enthusiasm has been just very, just confidence that it's being run really well. So I'm really, really good.
I appreciate
And along
that.
with Mark and Corey and all of us that are kind of taking part in this, because we have everybody. There's a lot of people coming and pouring into this group. So that's very good. to see.
He's saying you had some big shoes to fill.
I did.
Stick around, number 3. Matter pertaining to professional development plans for the upcoming 2023-2024 school session. This is information on item only from Ms. Sandra Rose, our chief educator.
Okay. I just kind of wanted to let you know about all of the PD that we have been having going on and we are continuing to have going on to prepare for 23-24 school year. So, you know, as you know, we're closing school, we're having testing, but in the academic world, we're looking at next year, and we have already started to prepare for that. So I just kind of, we put together some slides for the math trainings. They started in February. We started with all of our math, because we have our Algebra 1, our Algebra 2, our geometry, our 7th and 8th grade math, and our K-2 math that are moving to in some of them, it's a revised curriculum, and then in others, it's a new curriculum. And so I'm not going to read all of these slides to you, but I just wanted you to see that, you know, February, March 28th and 29th, we had 7th and 8th grade trainings, and then April 19th, we're having virtual trainings where they can just get on the computer. And then May 22nd to 26th, when we're off that week, we have lots going on for collaborations of teachers, because teachers are going to voluntarily come and they're going to work on the curriculum. They're going to write lesson plans together so that they can mix and mingle with teachers from other schools to all kind of put their heads together to get that done in preparation for next school year. And then all the way to August 3rd for our staff development days, our 3rd to 8th grade teachers, Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 are all going to have, on staff development day, they're going to have trainings that they have to attend on those days. And then in science, again in February, we started with that, and then April 19th, May 24th to 26th, June 5th to 6th, and then we have some that we haven't quite to be announced later, the health textbook teacher trainings. And all of that's going to be, our CIR and UIR schools are going to have some extra Amplify science instead of FOSS. They're going to be doing Amplify. And so Mr. Cotton is going to be training them on the Amplify along with someone from the company who's going to be here. And then kindergarten to 2nd grade is next. Again, kindergarten to 2nd grade has the Eureka Math Squared. They've been doing Eureka Math. All of the dates are there. In class is our intervention piece for K-2. And so you can see on there in March, we had the in-class training, so all of our teachers. Now, what you may be wondering is, okay, did we hire all our teachers and are they all here? No, they're not. We're going to be hiring some more over the summer, but if we can get the majority of the teachers trained, and if I'm a 4th grade teacher right now and I'm going to be teaching 1st grade next year, and I know that, I went to this in-class training. We kind of started all of that, and then right before school starts, we'll have some more trainings for those people who were hired throughout the summer. Okay, and then social studies, we had talked about that earlier in the year about all of the new standards that were going to be in place for next year for social studies, all new standards. So January through February, Miss Oliver had a standards study for each of the teachers who were teaching social studies, and then you can see May 23rd to 26th again, which is that week off. They're going to be having social studies collaborations that they can attend so that they can work with other teachers also. And then ELA, we also have some trainings. ELA is focused on high school because the high school curriculum is changing, and it's going to be Savage Realized. And so January, they had some of it where we had teachers come together and they actually looked at the textbooks and they helped to choose what curriculum we were gonna use. And then March through May, we have curriculum writing teams that are working, they started and they're gonna continue to work together, and they're actually doing that scope and sequence. We had talked earlier in the year about how every subject has a scope and sequence, and they know exactly what they need to teach on certain days, what standards to cover. So again, we're doing that for English 1 to 4, but it's not gonna be a set curriculum of this is what you have to teach. These are the standards you have to teach on that particular day. And then you can see we have in April, we have some more collaborative planning sessions in July, and then in August on staff development day, those teachers, those high school ELA teachers are gonna have to come in. Then, I have a big chart that we started. Right now it's about three pages long with all of the PD organized, because as you can see, there's a lot going on. So to keep our brains kind of focused and be able to follow sequentially, we have a huge chart that I'll share with you, but it's a work in progress right now. We're adding things daily. And then on the right side of the screen, you're gonna see TPSD PD on the spot, and I'm gonna tell you, y'all are the first ones to see it. Literally the first ones to see it. My instructional staff has not seen it. We finished this today. This is what we're doing. It's gonna be a little bit bigger than this. It's gonna be 11 by 17, and we're having them printed on kind of a little glossy paper. And it's Terrebonne Parish School District PD on the spot. It's just so important for us to keep the teachers abreast of new things and things that are changing. And so every month, starting next year, we are going to put one of these, well, we're gonna actually give them 3 to 5, depending upon the size of the school. We're gonna give these to the principals to place in their schools. We're gonna suggest they put them by the sign-in sheet, in the faculty lounge. If they have multiple buildings, put it in the hallway of each of the buildings. Someplace where teachers are going to see it. And if you notice the little QR code that's on it, we just want it to be literally what it's titled, PD on the spot. And where they can take a picture, like this is our kind of sneak preview for May of this year. And so it has a picture of the QR code, and it's gonna just list some of our summer collaborations. That's it, just very simple. There's a shortcut of the month where you press the window key and the arrow keys, and you can split your screen and move it around, so we played with that. But one of our favorites is find the color hex codes. It's the very top one, where and we used it for this, where you go in and you can type in Easter color hex code, and it gives you all of the codes for colors around Easter. Or you can do fall, you can do whatever, and it gives you a color palette that you just go pick the color and go put it in to whatever you're doing. So we're using this chart to kind of teach them how to do those things. And you can see all of the different things. And then I wanted to, I'm so proud of our emerging leaders that I wanted to spotlight them. So in the bottom, their names are there with their school names. And just to say, hey, we're gonna be doing another one. If your name's not on here because nobody at your school applied, or, they didn't get into it this time, find those strong people and have them come so that your name can be on here. So PD on the spot, you might see these when you walk in schools. We're gonna ask them to put it in the exact same place every time. The curriculum specialists are working with me on this, and we plan on putting one out every single month next year. I know you all have a teeny tiny copy, but they're gonna be 11 by 17.
So, does anybody have a question? Go ahead. I have one.
Just real quick, I know PD is required, but when teachers are collaborating like that week, you're paying them stipends for that, or how does that work?
No, it's voluntary. They don't have to come.
Okay.
It's just, a lot of them work together at their own schools, or they find a friend at another school and they work with them. So we're just providing them a place and a facility where they have enough room, and our curriculum specialist will be there to kind of guide them and answer questions as they have. And then we're going to share it with everybody. So, If you want firsthand information, you come and participate. If you don't, that's okay too. It's a teacher's choice.
So one of my questions was, do we have monies to pay stipends for PD?
We do.
And, you know, I think we should be encouraging our, instructional leaders and our supervisors to offer that up. Offer as much PD as we can. One thing I do want to mention is make sure that they know that they have to be logged in with the TPSD online.net, I think, because it won't let you access these QR codes without being logged in. I tried to do it just now.
Yes, you won't be able to.
So that means that it's only for our employees and our, and I say employees because everyone has that login, but usually it's the teachers and administrators that access that. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions?
So we spent an hour and a half on DFT and all the storming and stuff, but this is why we do DFTs, because of all of this, because it obviously reaches the kids, you know, and I thought it was just important to just show how much is still going on outside of everything that we kind of emphasize and focus on, the real work of teachers and our instructional staff, so thanks again for that.
Yeah, to expound on that, our greatest asset is our employees and the educating of folks is what we're here to do. So yeah, we have a lot of buildings, we have a lot of structure that costs a lot of money, but our biggest asset, like I said, is our teachers and administrators and our emerging leaders. So definitely, I wish we had an audience for this, but that's the.
We're always at the end.
Yeah, I know.
They're hungry.
Okay, so matter number 4, matter pertaining to safety concerns, this is informational item from Mr. Mortorka, Director of Child Welfare and Education.
Makes the comment about being hungry and I'm last. Anyway, so I was asked to present some information and keep you guys abreast of what's going on with safety. Some of it's broad because I'm not a big fan of sharing what we're doing. Hey, we're doing X, Y, and Z in safety so you can counter it, right? And I know we do drills and that kind of stuff, and it always concerns me when we do drills. We want to do it because it cuts down on panic, it cuts down on just confusion and so on. But at the same token, you also tip in your hand when you're doing it, so it's kind of a catch-22. So with that said, and then we contemplated the concern word on the agenda. We don't want to raise alarm, but look, everybody knows what's going on in the media today. The unfortunate side of things is that the school shootings, believe it or not, are not as prevalent as the media would put it out there. Obviously, one is too many. I don't want to minimize that. But we also have to be prepared as much as we can and be as proactive as we can. And so with Mr. Orgeron, Mr. Butler, other departments, and from federal, from grants to district money, that brings us to some of the things that I've highlighted for tonight. So start with school resource officers. A lot of times, I know going back to my days as an administrator, I was fortunate enough to be on larger campuses where it would be easy to not see a patrol car, for example. I encouraged our deputies to put their cars out front to where they can see that we have security. My usual analogy is that who doesn't slow down when they see a police officer parked on the side of the road? A lot of times it's an empty car, right? But just the idea, the visual that, hey, somebody's there that might shoot back, right? So we do have 11 deputies and officers on campuses this year. That is an increase from years past. HPD currently has 7. And those schools, it's not a big secret, but Terrebonne, Taps, Allender, Mulberry, Grand Caillou, Southdown, and Oak Lawn under HPD. And you'll see in your, I'll give you another font, might be a little small, but Southdown will be shifting. It is anticipated that it's going to shift to a sheriff's deputy next year. And then that HPD officer will be moved to another location, or at least a slot. I don't want to sound like I'm speaking on their behalf. But they are shifting that person or that position to Acadian or TCT. So we are anticipating that HPD will add Acadian and TCT for their spot. And Terrebonne Sheriff's Office historically had these 4 HLB, Evergreen, Home Junior High, and South Terrebonne. And again, they are anticipated that they'll be picking up Southdown, so they'll jump to 5. It's important to note that it is a funding situation where some things are equipment funded by their respective departments, but a good chunk of the salary, if not all, is funded by the district. So I know years ago, and I'm not an expert on it, I know Michelle's in the room, but it was always my understanding years ago to get them established, the district and the office, the departments would share the cost. But over the time, that became more along the line, salaries and things like that, more than the district cost. So when people say, well, why would we just want to add SROs? It came up in a discussion this morning when I was in a meeting with various members of law enforcement. It's a big deal. I mean, when you talk about benefits and so on, we're seeing numbers well over $100,000 a year for one officer. And then it depends on what department they're working with. Because even with security events, the schools, if you use an HPD compared to using SO, the cost is even more because they make more per hour and so on. So, but I wanted to emphasize that, but also keeping in mind that each department has more of their leadership for their respective SRO department or section of their departments, that they do have roving individuals that do respond pretty quick. Because obviously not all of our schools have SROs, but in a lot of times, our cases of our elementaries or even our small and middle school, they may not have an SRO position on the campus. They're usually pretty quick to respond. The administrator.
They're roving, they're typically at schools, right? Like
Yes.
they're from school to school, kind of bouncing around, and they can respond very quickly.
Yes. Good point, Mr. Lamar, because I can tell you that in the process, I think it's been working out really well. We've been getting a lot of good feedback on it. When Mr. Butler has been doing a lot of the expulsion hearings on site, and as well as when we do our school visits, we often run into the roving officer or roving deputy. And a lot of times, if the principal runs into an issue where they feel law enforcement is necessary, they'll call us, and then we're pretty quick about getting in touch with the roving or the senior leadership. I mean, frankly, I have the chief and I have the sheriff's number on my phone. And I've even on occasion talked, not so much with Chief Terry so much as of yet, but I definitely know I talked to Sheriff Saunier on occasion. Know him personally, but also just from the capacity of this. That's how much of the collaboration, and I'm going to get into that next, with communication collaboration, it is there, and it's a strong relationship that we have and continue to have. Today's meeting, for example, and I know I'll talk about it later on, but we're talking about different things to add accessibility to our campuses. I was talking with a vendor with the Knox Box program or equipment, and it was heavily attended by our first responders, fire department, as well as members of both SO as well as HPD. And like I said, in the document you have at your desk, issues are handled quickly and timely. It's not that it's rare, and I don't know if Corey ran into this, but it's rare that you get a situation where it's not handled within, I would say, at most an hour. And because I'll give you an example, we had that issue or that incident that occurred on the west side of Houma behind Canadas. It was in the paper a few weeks ago where you had a fellow that was held up in an apartment, I believe. In the process, we had an issue that popped up at a school, but also it affected transportation issues because they blocked off west side Boulevard, whichever. But the point I'm making is that so I called Lieutenant Noblock, Cody Noblock of the Sheriff's Office. We happen to be one of the negotiators for their AM1 negotiation. Oh yeah, okay, that's kind of important. So then I started talking to other people who I knew in leadership. But just to show you, even though they're in the middle of something that severe, they're still addressing what our issues may be. Because it did affect how are these kids getting home, especially Baltimore, Lisa Park, Terrebonne, Bourgeois, everywhere. So it wasn't just a matter of you have several hundreds of kids, if not thousands of kids that could possibly affect. The safety tools and equipment that we have in place, and this is kind of where I get into a broad kind of deal. Cameras are in place throughout the district. I kind of look at cameras as more of a reactive deal because we don't have people hopefully just sitting there watching a camera. But it is a good resource to go back and investigate things. But they are throughout the district and they are on the temporary campuses as well. So South Terrebonne, Eleanor, they do have cameras throughout the campuses. The metal detectors, with Corey's help and Federal's help, with the idea of funding, we did update. And I say update because many campuses already had the handheld wands, but this year, with Mr. Ogeron's initiative as well, again with Corey and Fed Department, finding funding, we were able to buy metal detectors that are portable. They're not exactly thrown in the bed of the truck, but they are portable. They're on wheels and that kind of thing. So if we do need them in different spots, either on the campus or in a different area throughout the district, we can move them. With that also came some updated handhelds as well. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So in essence, we had 4 of the walkthroughs, and he had 4 of the handhelds. In essence, we got 8 for that. And actually, it wasn't as expensive as I thought it would be. Restricted access to campuses. Many of you probably been on campuses where you either have to buzz in. Some campuses do have it. We do have a couple of vestibules already in place where you might be able to get inside somewhere, get you out the weather, but you still don't have access to the campus until you get clearance to get through. So those things are in play. Again, card scanners, I think we've initiated some of those here, working through that right now, and again, the buzz-in systems. The Raptor technology is throughout the district. The big piece of that is that it can scan an ID, and it can let you know if this person is a sexual predator or someone who has violated those types of issues in the law and that kind of deal. What's good about it is that if the way we're telling our staff members, if a person needs beyond the office meeting, if they need to go into like an hour-long meeting or a conference room, scan the ID, we're not trying to inconvenience staffs or inconvenience the public, but again, it's a layer of safety that we're trying to make sure that we're following. Because one of the issues, I know one of the administrators contacted and said, look, we had a big event, taking some time, but we're really giving that discretion to the administrator, how they modify it, but just to know that the equipment is in place and they can use it as they need to. The fencing upgrades, one of the things that we did this year with discussion with Mr. Ogeron and others from the finance department as well, that one of the deals that we've noticed, and if you go to, especially our neighborhood schools, I mean, this might be higher than some of the fences. And so the idea of it is that if we're working from outside to within, in the sense of trying to secure the perimeter of the buildings, the thought being is that as we're in classrooms and we're sitting in classrooms, the distraction, and I'm not saying that in a bad way, but we're distracted by doing what we're normally, what Santa was just talking about, doing our thing of teaching. You're not necessarily looking out the window, watching for somebody coming through, so you need to make sure we have a layer of protection there as well. And so that's kind of what the fences, in my opinion, are designed to do. And so we do have 5 schools that have been identified already that are in the process. They should be finished by October. And then with Mr. Butler's help, we are starting to evaluate the next go around. As you guys are already aware, we have $1 million in the budget that is set aside for that, or budgeted for that, to include vestibules. And as y'all know or might recall, those vestibules can be expensive, so even talking with Mr. Ogeron, we're looking at ways that we can still meet the same standards, but we can do it, and then like you said, do it meeting the standards, exceeding the standards, but saying above if we can as well. So we're gonna try to squeeze that $1 million as much as we can. And to also just keep in mind, I think I mentioned this previously, some of the fencing obviously was damaged for the hurricane. So if it's damaged for the hurricane, some of that will be replaced or repaired based on whatever the FEMA, whatever the repair would be, and so it won't come out of that $1 million. So some of the schools that we're looking at that do have significant fence damage may or may not be affected by the projects that we're looking at, but eventually it will be once the major construction comes around. The grants, and I mentioned earlier, I should have put this funding, because grants, we're using grants. We've applied for 2, or for 1 now, but we're working on the second. The Stronger Community Grant, which is the second bullet, it's a $21 million grant. It was in the media. Dr. Brumley from the state level, he had talked about it, and he mentioned that it's going to be $42 $500,000 awards if you get the money. But the catch to it is it's not a public school grant. It is basically a Terrebonne Parish grant if you get it, and that it is competitive, and that what happens is that public, non-public schools have an opportunity to be a part of that as well. So it's not like saying, here, Terrebonne Parish, you got $500 grand, spend it on your public schools. Be nice, hopefully we do that. But the thing is that, hey, Vanderbilt, if you want to chime in, all those schools were part of the conversation. And that meeting did take place with the help of Mr. Greaves and Ms. Riche over there at Federal. We did have a virtual meeting with them. So they had been invited to the table, and some have bought on to what we're trying to do with the grant, and some doing their own thing. But what we're looking to do is that, look, God forbid we ever have to use any of this stuff, but the bottom line is that we're looking at the potential of funding emergency lockdown kits for each classroom, and it's basic necessities that a person might need for several hours if you have to go into a lockdown. And So those, that's one initiative. The other piece of it is Stop the Bleed Kids. And God willing, we never deal with this, but at the same token, in a lot of these incidents, that one of the problems is that they had survivable injuries potentially. I don't want to sound like a medical professional, I'm not. But they did potentially have a survivable injury had they had, say, equipment to maybe, or even knowledge training to stop the bleed of these individuals. And it could potentially maybe save some of the victims of these cases. So those kids, and then the Knox box, as I mentioned, what Knox box does is that it provides access, hopefully on a quicker scale. So you might have seen some of the videos from the Nashville incident. One of the first things they show is somebody running up and giving a key to one of the first responders. The Knox box, what it does is that it's a lock box with a key. And that the first responder coming to the scene could have initial entry, or if they can't get into the glass. Some would question if a first responder, police officer, whichever may or may not have the time to do that. But at the end of the day, and they said, well, you know, some even said, well, we'll ram a vehicle through a door. I get all that, I'm with you. What do you do for a Montague Middle? What do you do for Berg Elementary? What do you do for Montague Elementary? These schools that are highly elevated off the ground, you're not getting a car through the door. My thing is too, is again, I don't want to sound like I'm speaking as a law enforcement guy, I'm not. But the catch is that, you know, usually a law enforcement, when you're going into a scene, you're going into a scene with weapons. You're not going into a scene with maybe an axe to break through a glass or something, whereas a firefighter would. So the Knox box, in my opinion, would help hopefully reduce that lag time and give them an opportunity. Why is that such a big deal? Well, when you're trying to do one for every building, this building included, it gets pretty costly because it can cost you in the neighborhood around $1,000 a site. So that's why that's also part of that. And so we're hoping, we'll see what happens. With first week of May, we hope to hear the results of that grant if we should get it. I talked to Ms. Riche earlier today, and that's what we're hoping for. The other COPS grant that's listed, that one is another one. That one is more focused on the idea of what are we doing as a district to improve communication and link that collaboration kind of deal between law enforcement and the public body. So it's kind of a different direction, different focus. And so that one's due in May. That is something that we've applied for in the past, but haven't been successful with it. But so again, competitive. That one I believe is a national grant. So again, you know, not everybody has an endless pot of money, right? So, but again, grant funding, anywhere from district funds, federal funds to you know, donations. Even if somebody's willing to do it, we'll take it. And then to cap it off, I know we mentioned earlier about the idea of professional development. So even in the sense of safety, professional development is high on our list. We get, myself and Corey, we get updates constantly from different organizations. Some of these are listed here. This is not all inclusive, but believe it or not, through LSU, they have a terrorism education deal that is pretty good. It's 4 or 5 hour little webinars that they do, but it's right to the point at which you're trying to accomplish. It's usually retired state troopers, that kind of thing that are presenting. It's really good stuff. Terror in general has been a good favor of us. FBI, Secret Service, so on and so forth. District staff. Ms. Erin Klingman, who's also in our department, who's at a conference in New Orleans right now with nurses. She's also well educated in the different CPR, stop the bleed, all those good things. And we're working with Terror in general, working with alcohol and tobacco control for the state to start different things where we can train our staffs to where it can hopefully, it goes down to the kid level, like on vapes and stuff like that, because that's one of the major problems that Corey and I face or see. You know, THC is one thing, but the vape is one of the bigger problems too. But anyway, that's kind of a snapshot of it, but I'll open it for questions if you have any questions.
How about ask this to Debbie Bedrock? You ever heard of Python? Yeah, I can read it. I'm just taking it.
I need space for notes.
Yeah, thank you.
Space for notes.
I do have a couple of questions and a couple of comments. So one of the things, and I'm bringing this up only because it's been brought to my attention more than once. The current administration of the sheriff's office, when the current sheriff was campaigning, one of the things he mentioned in several of his speeches and public appearances was his intention of having an SRO on every campus. So I know that that may have been a very ambitious goal for him, and when he got into office and he saw the costs associated with it, that may have become a challenge that he didn't anticipate. But I want to say a couple of things about policing and the thoughts thereof in the general public. And this is from a not just academic, this is academic also, but this is also from me, from law enforcement myself. 80% of policing is being a presence, right? Just being a deterrent. That's why they walk around with those uniforms on that stand out. That's why they drive vehicles that have stickers and the lights that stand out. So I think one of the things we can look at, and we can talk to the sheriff about, is we don't necessarily need an SRO on every campus, but the perception of having an SRO on every campus. There's a lot of patrol units that aren't being utilized on a daily basis that could simply be parked on those campuses. It may be a little far-fetched, but I don't think someone's gonna go on that campus and say, is that a real cop car, or is that somebody really in there? They're gonna see that police officer, that unit, and they're gonna say, maybe I shouldn't come to this campus if I'm one that's looking to do harm. It's just like parade routes and other various areas where you'll have cop cars parked in a very, like, highly trafficked area. There may not be a cop in that car, but from 200, 300 yards away, you're not gonna know that there's no one in that car. You're just gonna see that unit there and you're gonna slow down. So that may be an option for us to consider and maybe to bring to the table for the sheriff. The other thing is, when it comes to the Raptor system, I'm very pleased when I heard my wife, of all people, say, I used the Raptor system the other day, and it alerted me to someone that was that's registered as a sex offender. I don't want to say a sexual predator, I don't know their background, but they were registered as a sex offender. The problem was, she didn't know how to, she used the system, she was able to get that information, but from there, she didn't really know what to do. No one trained her on what's my next step. So she took it in stride and she did real well with it. She waited till the other people that were in the office kind of left, and this was a worker that was coming to do some work on campus. And then she held him there for a little while, saying, hold on, let me get back to you, even though she dealt with everyone else. Once they were gone, then she said privately to him, with the other school employees in the room, we can't let you on campus because you registered as a sex offender. So I think when you do the PD, the professional development, one of the trainings should be, it was good with these secretaries and these gatekeepers, per se, in the school, and say, yes, this is how you use this system, but more importantly, this is what you do once you discover that you have someone on campus that shouldn't be there. So that would just be a good idea. And as far as the Stronger Community Grant with the Knox system, I think one of the things about the Knox that the biggest cost is the monitoring, because my understanding is those codes that they issue to law enforcement and first responders changes periodically, so that you don't have someone that was previously employed that knows that code and they may be out looking to do the good. So it's something that changes pretty frequently. So that's just something to consider whenever you tell the rest of the board that, when you're looking at this system, the biggest cost is the monitoring. Same thing with any other security system. Same thing with what we have at home. You can buy the cameras, you can have the data, support it, but it's that monitoring that costs the most money and probably does the best to protect lives. And that's all I have. So thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Anybody else? Motion to adjourn. We have a motion on the table to adjourn. Am I second? Any public comment? Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, so ordered.
One.